journey week by week. SNL's best episodes in seek. From Colin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our countdown of SNL's greatest episodes of all time. My name is John Schneider from the SNN. So excited to be back with you on this Monday night, August 11th, to continue through our countdown that you have voted for. We're up to 18, 17, and 16 tonight. So we are rolling along into some epic episodes. We are, of course, here as a presentation of latenighter.com. And we got the legendary Bill Kenny here. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. Had a fun SNL related weekend. Went out to Cleveland to see Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they've got a new SNL 50 exhibit, which is amazing. I recommend it to anybody to go out and see it. A lot of old props, a lot of old costumes, including like the Sweeney Sisters and things like that. So a lot of good stuff. And then got to see Streeter and Jazz do a little inside SNL in Jamestown, New York yesterday. So it's been a fun SNL weekend, and happy to be here.
That's incredible. Any highlights from the Hall of Fame? I know you said you saw the Sweeney Sisters costumes and like things like that, but what would you say is like the number one thing you enjoyed the most?
I mean, there's a couple of scripts and things like that were kind of put around, but they had it set up such as they were playing a lot of the epic documentary that they did in February with SNL 50 music. So that was kind of the backdrop to a lot of the costumes. Some of them that you would expect, obviously cowbell and things like that, but there were some really almost deep cuts. They had Olivia Rodrigo's cake dress from just a couple seasons ago. So that was fun to see. And then some interactive stuff where you can listen to any song ever played on SNL with headphones on. So that was really cool as well. So highly recommend it.
Ooh, that's interesting. Is that like they didn't miss anything? They've got every song that was ever on SNL?
Well, I didn't go through the entire 50-year catalog while we were there, John. I think Sun Ra was on there. I know you're a big fan.
Huge fan.
Yeah, we listened to some Taylor and some ABBA and
Cool.
and had some fun with that. So yeah,
interesting. All right.
And then Jamestown, New York, National Comedy Center, only 2.5 hours away. I highly recommend that if you're a comedy fan. It's something to see.
Yeah, that's why they call him Jamestown, Austin Johnson. So glad you enjoyed that show. All right, let's bring in our amazing patrons we have here at the show tonight to talk about some episodes throughout this countdown. And here, first up, is the stats man. Eric is here. Eric, how are you?
John, I'm great. I just so happen to have recently moved to New York, not Jamestown though. I'm Brooklyn, so not sure how far that is, but excited to get out there. Oh, you got what's that, Bill?
That's okay. Brooklyn jersey.
Dodgers.
Brooklyn Dodgers. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I can see them here anymore either. But oh well. But yeah, it's been a good summer. It's been hectic. Haven't been able to be quite as involved with the following the podcast as I'd like to. But I'm glad to be here this week, and hopefully things will settle down before the season starts.
Yeah, happy to have you. And if you're in our patron Discord, then you will know that Eric sometimes puts some predictions for these countdowns each and every summer we do this. And he is amazingly accurate with a lot of the things that he guesses. So we'll see if that's the case again this summer as we go through the rest of the countdown. But looking forward to talking to you tonight, Eric, and joining us as well for the second time on the podcast. It's Max. Max, how are you?
Doing very well. I'm glad to be here. This is my second year of listening to the podcast. I found you through iTunes with the 50 greatest guest hosts. And so I'm glad to be on the podcast today. And a little trivia, the season starts in May. The season starts in September, ends in May. 1 month has not been represented in any of these episodes yet. Do you know which month that was?
Ooh, that's a great trivia question. I'm going to guess. Ooh, I don't know. Bill, you got one?
I'm going to say January, but I don't have any confidence in that.
January had one with Don Rickles. November.
Oh.
There hasn't been a single one in November yet. So I'm going to be interested to see if in the next if November is represented or not.
Huh. Interesting. All right. That's a That's a good question. We'll see if November comes up tonight or maybe in the next few weeks. So I love the trivia, Max. Appreciate you being here. And joining us as well is our great friend Dave is here as well. Dave, how are you?
Yeah, hi, John. Nice to talk to you again. Fellow Canadian, enjoying America's greatest export. So we're here to look it over. I don't know if all 50 years have been on Canadian TV, but the last 35 have for sure. And it's these are three pretty special episodes. So I'm looking forward to talking about them.
Yeah, me too, Dave. Always great to get to hear from you and great to have a fellow Canuck on with us on the show here tonight. So, yeah, let's talk about the countdown so far. So, we are really hitting the epic episodes, the ones near the top of the list that are must see. So, I'm very excited for what we are going to get over the next 6 weeks. We will catch you up now on all of the reveals that we have had over the previous weeks as we've gone from 50 all the way down through to 19. So I'll put those up on screen. Spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1. Starting from 50, we got Patrick Swayze's episode from season 16. Then before we got Michael Jordan's episode from season 17. David Alan Grier from season 21, followed by Anne Hathaway from season 34. Then Jerry Seinfeld's episode from season 17. Conan's episode from season 26. JT's episode from season 38. Shatner season 12. Justin Timberlake's season 36 episode. And then Christopher Walken's season 28 episode. So that's 50 through 41. Starting at 40, we got Alec Baldwin's Christmas episode from season 24, Sigourney Weaver, the premiere of season 12, Gosling from season 49. We got Alex episode from season 15, Seth MacFarlane's premiere from season 38, Lindsay Lohan from season 29, Christopher Walken from season 18, Charles Grodin from season 3, Jimmy Fallon's Christmas episode from season 37, Jason Sudeikis from season 47. That's 40 through 31. Then we got 30, Will Ferrell's finale from season 34. The premiere of Saturday Night Live from season 1 is at 29 with George Carlin. Peyton Manning's episode from season 32, followed by Pedro Pascal season 48. Tom Hanks's Five Timers episode, season 16. Jack Black's episode from this past season, season 50, is at 25. Then we got Tom Hanks, season 14 and 24. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler at season 41 at number 23. Don Rickles from season 9 is at 22. 21 is John Hamm from season 34 with Coldplay. We talked about that last week, as well as Kristen Wiig Ray from season 49 at 20. And then Jimmy Fallon, Justin Timberlake, the most recent episode we have revealed here on the show from season 39. Bill Kenny, how are we doing? Let's check in with you.
I think we're doing well. We're getting to the point where some notable names we haven't talked about yet. So we have no John Goodman, no Steve Martin, no Buck Henry. Obviously, they're known as these epic, 5-timer, 10-timer, 13-timer hosts. But do their episodes mix together too much where it's hard to kind of nail down one specific episode? I know we'll probably talk about one, Steve Martin in particular, at some point, but it's kind of interesting to see. But I'm happy that we're getting names that we didn't get on the host countdown last year. So, the Shatners and the Sigourney Weavers of it all has made this very, very interesting so far.
Yeah, that's just a big question of does the whole equal the sum of the parts? How, whatever the saying is, how does it really work? Like where you talk about someone's epic hosting run, is that better than an individual episode of theirs? And we'll have to see which one of those episodes do end up popping up on the list, if any, and talk through it once the final reveals have been made. So, Eric, I know you've been combing through the SNL archives, trying to figure out which episodes are going to end up on the countdown. How do you feel about the list right now?
I feel really good. I mean, there was some on here that I thought deserved to be on, but when I was going through and making my predictions, I thought that there was no way that the people would think of them. And lo and behold, some of them popped up, especially some of those Christopher Walken and even Tom Hanks episodes where, there's a lot of them. So it's kind of hard to remember what episode, what thing happens in. Those episodes are showing up, and so I'm really happy to see those. Then we have our our Charles Grodins and our Don Rickles. I was shocked to see so high at 22. So yeah, a lot of great stuff on the list, and it's not all perfect, but I think overall it's really good.
Dave, how do you feel about the list so far after having looked through it?
It's a variety of eras, which is terrific. People are recognizing the original era, the not ready for primetime players, all the way down to things just in the last couple of years. And the interesting thing that Bill mentioned that I wanted to talk about really quick is is that dynamic the opposite of what we did last year. Bill, recall I was on the episode where we talked about how good Betty White's hosting was. She only did it the one time, and I think she was like 8th or 9th in that voting, and now it's sort of the opposite, where instead of 15 episodes of Alec Baldwin or 10 of John Goodman or 5 of Buck Henry being up here, like you were saying, it's sort of the average of the part of the entire part of those particular hosts other than individual episodes, because they all, as you said, sort of meld together, and it's hard to recall any individual one on its own. Of course, that's what Peacock is all about. But yeah, it's definitely a dynamic completely different from last year, based on what we're voting on this year. And I couldn't help but notice that when you mentioned it, Bill, just a moment ago.
Yeah, some great points, Dave. Max, let me go to you. Let's ask your opinion on the countdown so far.
I mean, I have to say, I have no quarrel with the episodes that are listed, only the order. I'm kind of surprised that like Lindsay Lohan was above the Conan O'Brien, the William Shatner, the Alec Baldwin B-52s, which I consider an all-time classic, which I can only think is it depends on what age you grew up, how high you rank these. I mean, I grew up, I started watching Saturday Night Live current run in 1990. So, of course, a lot of those era episodes I'd hold at a higher esteem than some of the ones more recent. But someone who just started in, let's say, 2010 would have a completely different viewpoint than I do. And it's valid, but it's just, I may not agree with it because of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, I know last week there was a little bit of a debate on the show about the Fallon Timberlake episode, which would be natural. I could tell you that we posted the results on social media today, and that was the one that most people were like, too low. I mean, I don't agree, right? I actually think it's too high, but it just goes to show you that there is a representation for everything, not just the absolute, diehards are right, in a sense. Like, we want to get the totality of all of the fans to put their input on these things. And I think that's what makes this countdown so interesting. It's not my personal list, it's not Bill's personal list, but it is the list that you all came up with. So a lot of great stuff here. As I say every single week, I just love the variety we have on the list. And I think that stands tonight, where we're going to be talking about 3 pretty different episodes on the show here. So very excited to dive right in. So, gentlemen, let's get into the first episode that we will be talking about on the show here tonight. And let's start with number 18 on the list. And this is a host we are actually pretty familiar with so far on this countdown. So I am excited to have this person back on tonight for an episode that we has some pretty epic moments in it. So here we go at number 18 on the list. Let's talk about, from season 15, Tom Hanks with music from Aerosmith. So this is February 17th, 1990, season 15, episode 13. Very pumped to talk about Tom Hanks's 4th time hosting. We already talked about his 5th time hosting and his 3rd time hosting, so we've sandwiched this episode. But here he is back here with some pretty big moments, Bill Kenny.
Yes, this really, boy, we might have to reevaluate how high we had Hanks. We might have to put him even higher on the host countdown from last year. I know he was already pretty high, but to get on here a 3rd time and basically 3 hosting gigs in a row, this is well known for one really huge moment, but this is a very, very solid episode from start to finish. But it kind of leads into a new era of SNL, as far as the musical guests being a part of sketches and things like that. So excited to talk about that and the rest of it.
Yeah, Eric, I know you said you were like, well, how do people parse the different hosts? And like, do you think they're going to be able to be like, okay, we're just going to pick one Hanks? This is our 3rd Hanks episode we're already talking about here. Does this one deserve to be the highest of the ones we've talked about so far? Like, how do you feel about this ending up at 18?
Yeah, well, I think of all of them. This, along with another one that hasn't come up yet, are sort of the 2 that I for sure knew would be mentioned, just because of that, Wayne's World Aerosmith moment, and people would be able to sort of recognize that moment was in this episode because they would see, Aerosmith as a musical guest. So yeah, I mean, I think that moment alone sort of gets it here, but the rest of the episode is really solid. I don't know if it like stands above the rest of the Tom Hanks episodes beyond that single moment, because there's a lot of sort of standard Tom Hanks solid work here. But I think that moment sort of launches it a bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, after rewatching this one, and we're going to talk about all the details of it, I definitely think this deserves to make the top 50. It's just like, it's inferior to me to the season 14 one, no doubt. And I probably would put this ahead of the season 16 one, but again, that could be debated as we discuss this here. But it's certainly like among a group of really great episodes from an all-time epic host. And the fact that we got all three of them here on this countdown is a testament to the intelligence of our voters. Max, would love to know your thoughts overall on Hanks Aerosmith ending up here at 18.
This is one of the first episodes that I've watched. It really, really struck out to me when I was a kid. And of course, one, two, sibilance. And I think all of Mr. Short-Term Memories are cool, but the one in the hospital, I don't know why, Phil Hartman just plays the perfect straight man to him. And you just have everything. It's kind of funny. There's always that odd sketch that kind of like, I forgot this was in here, and we'll get to Black History moment, which I thought does not hold up well at all. But no, I believe that this does belong to be here, even if we have another week we're talking about Trump. A younger,
Yeah,
but still Trump.
Yeah, it never will leave this countdown, but we'll get to that momentarily. Dave, would love to know from you your thoughts overall on Hanks and Aerosmith here at 18.
Well, I marathoned it the whole afternoon, and there were some sketches I didn't remember, and some that stood out immediately. Obviously, Wayne's World. I was born in '76, so when I was 13, everybody was talking about Wayne's World and Mike Myers being on the show, and everybody was imitating Wayne and Garth. And then a couple of years later, 2-3 years later, the movie came out. So this was just a huge moment. Aerosmith was the biggest band in the world in late '89, early '90, and yeah, the Mr. Short-Term Memory got a little bit annoying as it went on, but Tom's influence and his passion for every single sketch, he was probably dead tired after that show, because he put in 110% on every effort.
Definitely. So let's contextualize where we are here in February of 1990. So we are right in the middle of the second golden era, probably towards the end of the late 80s cast, as we're about to lose Lovitz and Nora on the show in just a little bit. Or we're right prior to the joining of Farley and Chris Rock. And then eventually a lot of the bad boys will come on in season 16, where we talked about that Swayze episode earlier in the countdown. So that's all the season 16 stuff. But here at the end of season 15, I mean, the show is still hitting on all cylinders. 14 for me is still that peak of that era, but 15 has so many great episodes as well, including this one. And this is actually the first official episode for Mike Myers as a repertory player. So he moves up from a feature player to that in this episode. And yeah, just like a really big deal to have Aerosmith on the show as well. One of the biggest bands in the world, if not the biggest at the moment. And this was going to be a pretty epic episode, no matter how you sliced it, with Tom Hanks and Aerosmith here. So Bill, for me, there is no doubt, if we haven't already alluded to it enough, that we have to start with the Wayne's World sketch first in this one, because this is a sketch that, you know, Wayne's World had been around before. This is actually the 7th edition of Wayne's World, but it was a sketch that was probably way more tame than what we would end up seeing it become. There would be more tricks, more things, more tropes added to it. But this was when it sort of blew up from, I'd say, something that was like, oh, if you watched SNL, you knew what Wayne's World was, to everybody in the world, even if they didn't know or watch SNL, knew what Wayne's World was. And I think that started right here with this sketch, with Tom Hanks as the roadie for Aerosmith, Garth's cousin, who will come to the microphone, test it out, say sibilance, that very famous line. Aerosmith will be in the nook upstairs, will come down and will sing the Wayne's World theme song with Wayne and Garth. And it is just incredible stuff, Bill.
It's really something to see, and there's a lot going on here. So you have a musical guest being in a sketch, which, yes, it did happen in the first 15 years. Obviously, Paul Simon, things like that. We got Frank Zappa and a Candy Bergen episode. But it was very rare. It's not like today where we're debating as we go into an episode. Are we going to see Olivia Rodrigo in a sketch? Are we going to see Ariana Grande, if she's just a musical guest, show up in a sketch? So this was part of that first thing. And Aerosmith, as big as they were in the 70s, had never been on the show. So here we are 15 years, they kind of came in at the same time as SNL. They're becoming big in the mid 70s, 75, 76. They have a really deep well where they're not doing anything in the early 80s because of drug abuse and things like that. But as Dave says, they are the biggest thing on the planet, 88, 89, 90. So to have them here for the very first time was already a big deal. Then to get them into this sketch that was starting to pick up steam, with Mike Myers becoming one of the big superstars on the show. It's the perfect storm of everything that's happening here, and everybody knew about it.
Yeah, and it's just so crazy, right? I mean, Mike Myers already establishing himself with the cast, and he was a natural from the moment he joined. But like this really shows, like, hey, he's going to have a major role in this era and be one of the leaders of this cast. And I just there's so many moments in this that I think are so fantastic. It just really like hits a peak in this. It almost, to me, when you watch the Wayne's World sketch from this episode, I almost look at it as a bit of a transition sketch where, Eric, it starts off, you see Nora Dunn as Wayne's mom. Like, it's very much the familiar Wayne's World that you get from those first few instances of the show. And then it transitions over, like I said, to Aerosmith coming down to the basement. And then from then on, it is absolutely, Wayne's World is like the hottest show on television on SNL.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole bit where they're all talking about communism. That's my favorite part for sure. I don't know that there's a higher peak for any recurring character on the show than when Aerosmith is singing the theme song. Like I was trying to think about this. I can't think of another recurring character that has a peak as big as this one. I don't know if you guys can think of any.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify what defines a peak. I mean, I remember I was obviously a little bit young for the peak of Wayne's World, but I do remember watching it through for the first time and having a conversation with my sister, who is 9 years older than me. So she's from like a little bit of a different generation. And she was saying that at the moment that these sketches got so big, she was attending summer camp and like everyone had Wayne's World shirts. Everyone knew the lines. So it was one of those things, Eric, that like, again, you didn't have to watch the show to know what was going on here. And I wonder if that is a way to sort of tell that maybe this is the peak of popularity of a recurring character on the show.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just feel it in the crowd. Like, obviously, I wasn't alive during this, but just watching the sketch, you feel the energy, after they're done.
Dave, I would love to go to you to ask your opinion on getting to rewatch this sketch and how it felt to live through this epic moment.
Well, it was the endorsements of Wayne's World and SNL. If Aerosmith didn't agree to do it, they would have just had something else with Tom Hanks. But the fact that they were willing to do it and they talked about how they were no longer on drugs, they weren't drinking anymore, that was a positive message. And Wayne's World, as you said, just kept climbing to the heights once they got basically endorsed by Aerosmith. It was a big moment. And if anyone asks you about Tom Hanks and Wayne's World, you think about Sibilance and that Aerosmith was on, and it's probably one of the most remembered Wayne's World episodes of the number that they did.
Yeah, and I think one of the underrated aspects of this sketch is Aerosmith, before they start playing the Wayne's World theme, which is maybe the more remembered part, they are sitting around the couch talking about American-Russian politics as they are trying to have that conversation, and different members of the Wayne's World band are trying to talk politics. And it is a very amusing scene to see each of them like trying to just have this like conversation with Wayne and Garth. It's very silly, and I think it's one of those things that gets lost in what is a pretty epic sketch, Max, to go back and revisit.
Oh yeah, I also love Nora Dunn. I'm good enough to do your laundry, but not to be on Wayne's World. And I don't think Nora Dunn gets the respect she deserves as being kind of, if Phil Hartman was good, I think Nora Dunn was kind of like the female character. She doesn't get the respect she deserves. And every time I hear her do that, Wayne's World, I laugh. And it's kind of cool seeing a show like this that you've seen when as a kid and you're adult. It brings you back to where you were. I mean, I was like 13 again watching this with my dad back at old home in Cambridge. And it's amazing. Good comedy, like all good art. It takes you back where you are. It doesn't age. It's the same as it was in 90 as it is now. It's still hilarious. And that's what makes this an all-time episode.
Agreed. And no doubt that this moment is well deserving of putting this episode here at number 18 on the list. The question is, does the rest of the episode live up to it? So let's talk through these other moments that we see here. We also alluded to the fact that there is a major Trump cold open, and you may think you've seen Trump on SNL in the way that he's portrayed in modern times, but this is a very different Donald Trump in 1990, as we're getting to see a sketch with Phil Hartman playing Trump and Jan Hooks playing Ivana Trump, a different era for the Trump family, talking about the prenup that they have, written before they were married, and his mistress, and a lot of, inside information about Trump, the board game that existed back in the early 90s. And I guess like his beef with other game show hosts. It is impossible to watch this and not like think of it in the context of everything that he would become. But still, it is just a really fascinating look, Bill, back at this prenuptial agreement cold open in 1990.
Yeah, I'm glad we get this out of the way early tonight, so I don't have to talk about it in the middle of something later. But I always kind of liked Phil's take on this. It's not the first time he's done this, but it's the first time that he really seems to get his voice correct. Like he kind of like Dana working through the Bush stuff. Third or fourth time he really kind of hits the ground. And it is a different time. And I mean, Trump was just everywhere even then. He was one of the first celebrities that was not really known for anything other than being rich. The whole Merv Griffin thing was they had this huge fight about casinos in Atlantic City, and they kept going back and forth, which I think appeared in an earlier sketch.
I think Merv may have stolen some employees from him.
Okay.
Was that what it was?
No, I mean there was fighting about property. I don't remember the whole thing about it, but yeah, okay. I don't know what the exact reference in this one is, but
yeah, that was maybe it took an employee or two from him or something like
that. But Jan's great here. Jan plays two of his three wives over the course of the series. She also goes on to play Marla later on. So this is fine. It's a more innocent time, John.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Max, I'd love to know from you what you thought about the cold open, going back and revisiting it.
Oh, just watching it and just saying, oh no. But it is amazing the history of SNL with Donald Trump. I mean, Phil Hartman, then the Apprentice commercials and the early arts. But this is not my favorite of his Donald Trumps. My still all-time favorite of Phil Hartman is the Christmas one, The Gift of the Magi. And they just stopped having it as Christmas on the Saturday Night Christmas specials. But no, I mean, I think it's a good topical open, and it's kind of funny. All cold opens are topical and of their time. Some hold up better, some hold up worse. We'll probably talk about one that holds up worse a little bit later in the evening. But I think this holds up. I think this holds up good. I mean, Phil Hartman, he's a great. His impersonation is wonderful, and I think this holds up.
Yeah, Phil, there's nothing wrong with Phil in this sketch. He did a great job there. Let's move to the monologue. Let's talk about what we saw in Hanks's fourth monologue, where he walks out and he does a pretty Hanksy bit where he is stumbling and says like he hurt his knee backstage as he was preparing. And it's like, oh, is Hanks going to be okay? And then he just like dies on the stage. And there's this whole bit about how he leaves the plane of existence and is running around the set and is trying to talk to everybody, but nobody can hear him because he's dead and people are mourning him. And eventually he'll run into Abraham Lincoln, which is, of course, an SNL trope of going to see a Lincoln backstage. Usually the cast or the host don't interact with the Lincoln and they're more background fodder. But in this this time he's played by Drummond Erskine, who I believe was a character actor mostly known for like having a very chiseled face that could play a good Lincoln. So they got him here, and he has this line about how, you know, he could talk to him because they're both on the same plane, and he just says, "You're an incredible pussy." And that is like one of those lines that I think is, in addition to sibilance, ends up being one of the most memorable lines from this episode. Eric, what was it like for you to go back and see this monologue?
Yeah, this was great, and you stole my Lincoln trivia, John. I thought I might be able to share that one, but I can't get any of you're probably the one who identified who that person was in the first place, so I can
It
never
is
get
possible.
that past you. Yeah. But yeah, this was great. We got to see a couple of extra behind the scene writers in this sketch as well. I'm not sure if you guys caught any of those, but Conan and Odenkirk and I think Tom Davis were also there. So, but yeah, great sort of meta monologue sketch here.
Yeah, Dave, how was it for you going back and seeing this monologue?
Well, great. I mean, Tom basically is selling his hurt leg from the moment he walks through the door. So you don't really know what's going on, if it's real or if it's fake. I loved how we mentioned that the VHS release of Turner and Hooch, he's managed to sneak that one in there as well. And again, he was just, as I said earlier, just 110% dedicated to it. And you got a look around backstage, which was relatively uncommon back then. But yeah, he did an excellent job.
Yeah, it is a very good one. Go ahead, Max.
I want to thank you for the Google Drive, because I was watching on Peacock, and the sketches that weren't on Peacock on the Google Drive, and the monologue's not on Peacock. And I don't know why, music or whatnot, and so I probably haven't seen this since like maybe back when it was on Comedy Central. And so, I mean, it was kind of cool. The airy, fairy kind of ways talking melodically. It just, I just cracked up. I mean, it just, his face. It was awesome. It was awesome, and I was glad I was able to see it again.
Well, you're welcome. And if you are a patron of the Saturday Night Network, you get to see this. We're going to be posting it after this episode, so you can watch it on patreon.com/the SNL Network. Dave, you're going to say something?
Yes, sort of how he dances around the live crowd and how they react to him, and how he's overly Broadway-ish about him reacting to his own death, and in front of live people, inches away from him too. That another highlight.
Yeah, it is really great stuff. And I always felt like this one went really well hand in hand with the third time that he hosts, where he goes around, you know, being a nice guy. And we covered that one from October of '88. So I always thought that one was really good. And it ultimately, you know, keep peaking as he will end up going to the Five Timers Club the next time that he hosts the show in season 16. So great monologue here, ends up being totally one that I think people will remember. The next commercial we have, which is I think a forgotten commercial, but it is a McDonald's parody from Russia. Obviously, a lot of like Soviet conversation that is being had throughout the episode. So I know that there's some topical theming going on here, but it's an ad for basically a Russian McDonald's, where instead of like a Happy Meal with a toy, you get a bar of soap or toilet paper. Bill, anything here?
Yeah, this is right at the moment. If you're of a certain age, you remember this. I can remember seeing it on the news where, you know, there were lines blocks long as they opened the first McDonald's in Russia. So that's kind of what this is alluding to. Jan is great here, as always. And, you know, I don't know, the joke about it being bars of soap and spools. It's okay. But it's in and out. And you get the famous line at the time, good times, great taste, soap.
Yeah, it was a cute commercial. Nothing that I think would be too memorable. You know, then we had the Wayne's World sketch, which ends up being this really epic segment, and that follows with a sketch called Tales of Ribaldry, which for me is like such a like secret classic sketch that I don't think was ever talked about on the show, but is one that like as a big John Lovitz fan on the show, I always laugh so hard at this sketch where he plays his Evelyn Quince character who's reacting to ribaldry as it appears around him. I think they only ended up doing this a couple times. I think there was it was like cut a bunch of other times. But the first one was from the Mel Gibson episode, and then they brought this back here for Tom Hanks. And essentially, like, he's a character who just like loves seduction and like sexuality in scenes where he's making like all of these sound effects and like ooh and like covering his eyes. But when it gets like, it'll peak when it gets to like, okay, now these characters are all going to have a threesome. He's like, nah, none of that. I'm not even to this. There's no danger in this. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. And that is just one of those great moments from Lovitz, who is nearing the end of his SNL career as a cast member, but truly an amazing character piece that I wish we saw more of. Eric, did you like getting to revisit Tales of Ribaldry?
Yeah, this was a great one, and I'm also a huge Lovitz fan. But I actually love Tom Hanks' work here because he sort of plays a different character than he does in a lot of his other sketches, where he's sort of more of like the macho man that he's putting on. And I don't think I laughed harder than when it cuts from Lovitz's face to the shot of Tom Hanks's sweaty back as he's as he's sort of shining the boots of I can't remember if it was Jan Hooks or Victoria's character at that point, but yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, it is a very sweaty back that I think they must have applied sweat to as they went back to.
You don't think that's self-generated? Yeah,
no,
he had like 10 seconds there to get it out.
He would have to be working very hard for that. Dave, how is it for you to go see this sketch again? Dave, we got you?
Sorry, me?
Yes, Dave, how is it to go revisit
you got
the
me.
sketch?
I had not remembered that it was on there, so it was nice to see that something like that for the first time in 30 years. Basically, he cuts it off because the cat fight ends, and they just decide, okay, we're not going to fight anymore. We're just going to have a threesome. And then he's like, no, I want the cat fighting, so I'm going to cut this off right at when the crowd would get excited to see the next step. So yeah, Lovitz's, I guess, interstitials is the word, and I think what Victoria and Jan and Tom did was just the means to an end to get it back to Lovitz, and he did it great.
It's so true.
Lovitz, the melody of the way he speaks, it was almost musical. I mean, I remember getting in trouble because sometimes Monday after Saturday, I would like repeat some of the things I've heard in Saturday Night Live, and I remember getting told, dangerous sex, dangerous sex. Why is there a word for dangerous sex? And it just, Lovitz, just the way he says every line is Evelyn Quince, and just goodbye, everybody, goodbye. It just, only he could pull this off, and he pulls it off wonderfully.
Yeah, Evelyn Quince would have hated the line "incredible pussy."
Oh yeah,
that would not have worked for him. But Bill, would love to know from you what it was like to go see this character. I think there is like a little bit of a bit about that last line too, the "goodbye, everybody, goodbye." I think that's a pretty famous Lovitz story.
I don't recall the story, but I do know when I saw Lovitz in May, he referenced SNL. He talked about the liar because of Trump, and Trump has referenced his liar character, but he didn't really do any characters, which is fine. But he did end his show with "goodbye, everybody, goodbye." So that was a nice, like, Peter Griffin. I said the thing. But yeah, I mean, listen, we didn't have the internet in 1990, so seeing Jan and Victoria walk around in these bustiers was certainly something that 14-year-old Bill was very happy about. Yeah, I think, and one of the funny things to me is I think Jan was probably having a blast choking out Victoria. But as we know from the background stories now. But yeah, this is great. It's one of those characters where you feel like they probably did it 10 times and they only did it twice.
Yeah, I think the story here, from my understanding, this is like a Dana story that I think he tells sometimes on Fly on the Wall, that I think Lovitz tried to get a character that would always say "goodbye, everybody, goodbye" into like a bunch of sketches over the years. And like there would be like this character, and that was like the thing he would say, and he can never get it on the show. Like they would always cut that or say like, that's not going to work. And because of that, he decided just to throw it in here at the end, and it was almost like a little bit of an inside joke between the cast members that he actually got that line on TV. But yeah, this is like a totally underrated John Lovitz character that we should talk about more. Next up, we got Aerosmith, who's performing Janie's Got a Gun. They will later perform Monkey on My Back in this episode as well. So, probably more remembered for the appearance in Wayne's World, but still really great musical performances here, Bill, from Aerosmith.
Yeah, Janie Got a Gun, huge song, number 4 on the Billboard charts. So I wish they had done a more popular song instead of Monkey on My Back, but it's fine. Both performances are great, and every time they come back, they do more and more of their hits. So I appreciate them here.
Yeah, really good stuff here from Aerosmith that I would say definitely adds to the feeling of this episode. On a Weekend Update, we get Dennis Miller doing a lot of the jokes of the time. And the one correspondent we will see here is an appearance from Al Franken, writer on the show, but also a featured cast member for many episodes, who will bring in his one-man mobile uplink unit, which was a popular segment that he would do throughout this era. And this time he is in New Jersey to watch cocaine being offloaded from a fishing boat, only to in the background be seen on his one-man mobile uplink unit. This is a bit that I think he would do for many, many years, even after he was off the show, that he would become very well known for. So, Dave, what was it like for you seeing this one again from Franken?
I remember the mobile uplink unit and the fact that running away with this satellite on his head, trying to avoid getting shot at by the gangsters selling the coke. That's quite hilarious. And I mean, Dennis Miller, his own, just like I had forgot basically they just kind of took stock photos of celebrities or of the news and then just manipulated them into something else. And we see that a little bit later tonight as well, another episode. But it'd be hard to argue that Dennis is to do it, despite short of it he was on. But you can't but laugh. You see Franken with that light on it, of course, just the thing of it. One of the last on it was talking about Calloway and Tammy Faker, and imagine kids just now, no idea who the people are. I can remember them, but it's.
Hey Dave, you're just cutting in and out just a little bit, so I just want to make sure that we are able to get everything you're saying. We got most of it, so I will go to Eric just to get his thoughts on this, and then we'll try and get you in for the next one. So Eric, any other thoughts on Franken on update?
Sure,
Yeah, I really like this one. Some of these get a little tiresome just because it's like I can feel the load of the mobile uplink unit on me, and that kind of exhausts me a little bit. But I love the idea of the cartel members like actually spotting him and running after him and shooting at him. Pretty good special effects on the bullets going through the through the satellite dish there. So yeah, I was a big fan of this. And yeah, it was kind of weird seeing like the Dennis Miller jokes here because a lot of them were really just based on the pictures. But like you kind of have to think about the times as they were back then, where we didn't have all these memes with all their captions. This was basically like the way that you could make a meme is on Weekend Update, I guess. So it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Let's go to the first sketch after update. So we're going to talk about the Mr. Short-Term Memory sketch here. And this is obviously something we talked about twice before. So we talked about the first one and the third one. Here's the second one here, where we will have the Mr. Short-Term Memory walking into the hospital as his friend, played by Phil Hartman, has recently broke his leg, and the whole back and forth about not knowing why he's there. And there's a good bit about him trying to use a bedpan, and that's disgusting, and the whole thing with the nurse keep coming in. It is a fun to see more Mr. Short-Term Memory. Like I said, one of my favorite theme songs in SNL history, and always gives me a good laugh. But I don't know that Bill or I have much more to say about it, since we already talked about the first two editions of this. So Max, what would you like to say about Mr. Short-Term Memory?
Again, I think Phil Hartman plays the perfect foil for this, because he's trying to be nice and he's trying to be understanding, but he's so frustrated. And then at the end, we're just explaining to Victoria Jackson, he was hit by a pear. And it just, if you can't think about it too much, or you start getting about the logic. He knows he's in the hospital. What does he know and what he doesn't know? But Hanks is just so honest. And I mean, it's one of those things that I always wish that he brought back for like the 40th or the 50th, just to see how it would play now, but maybe it's something that should just be in the 1990s. I don't know.
I think this is one of those like Hanks bits that would work now. I think some of the things that he did in season 16, where it's like a bit just based on like his name or his character type or something like that, that's sort of like a repetition situation, a little bit like an improv game or sketch game. I think those maybe don't work as well nowadays, but I think Mr. Short-Term Memory actually would work and would be, if Hanks ever hosted again, would be like a really fun one to bring back. Eric, do you like these Mr. Short-Term Memory sketches?
They're okay. I think this one really picks up about halfway through, but it does take like half of the sketch to really get to sort of the newer material. But I think once like he starts commenting on the flowers that he's left behind, and then once Phil Hartman has to go to the bathroom and they put up the curtain, and then Tom Hanks walks back there, I think that's where this one really picks up. But it really does require the strength of Tom Hanks's earnestness and Phil Hartman's ability to play off of that for this to work at all, I think.
Yeah. Dave, do we have you back now? Do you want to comment on the short-term memory sketch?
I think you got me back now, John. This sketch sort of shows my love for the Saturday Night Network, because if this was part of today's episode, I would have fast forwarded through the last half of it. So I stuck with it just to get it all the way through, just so I could comment on how annoying it got, especially in the second half. So the fast forward button, I turned it off just for you, John.
Okay, well, thanks, Dave. But yeah, not something I fully agree with you about.
Not great.
But okay, that's fair. Love the passion. Let's talk about another sketch this one is an interesting one because it is a pretty unseen sketch. A lot of the episodes that from this era end up being cut down to 45-minute versions, and then they were replayed on Comedy Central. So the reruns of this episode that a lot of people have seen don't get the eye on chest hair sketch. So you may have missed this one if you are familiar with the episode. But this is a Martina Navratilova hosted sketch where she brings in other celebrities, including Randy Travis, Gene Shalit, Joel Siegel, and Kevin Nealon as Kenny Rogers, to talk about their chest hair in one of the most bizarre sketches in the history of Saturday Night Live. Bill, how did it feel to finally get to see this one?
To quote Dave Chappelle, cocaine is a hell of a drug. This is wow. I love how stuck in this. I mean, if you don't know, every morning news show had to have a quirky movie reviewer with a huge mustache in the 80s and the 90s. So we've got Gene Shalit and Joel Siegel here. Kevin Nealon lip syncing Kenny Rogers, Martina Navratilova for some reason hosting this. Like what the hell is the point of that? But it's great. It's like this whole ball of weirdness going on here. The whole ants on his chest as they cut in was very oogie to go back and look at. But I love this for how out there it is. Yeah, it's quite the mindfuck.
It's so bizarre. Our friend Andrew Dick, a few years back, he posted on X. He said that this is like one of his most underrated favorite sketches of all time, and asked Smigel about if he had involvement in this. And Smigel responded and said, like, this felt like a Tom Davis concept that Downey or maybe even Frankie or Handy aided in, but possibly like a Tom Davis concept. I mean, I find it hard to identify who wrote this one because like a lot of the tropes you could see in other sketches from the writers of this era, this to me is like a fever dream of like something that was held back from the 70s. So I would make sense maybe that Davis would be the one who would lead this, because like this is a 6 a.m. you're high out of your mind and you came up with something like this. Max, any thoughts on Eye on Chest Hair?
No, I think this is probably the first time I saw it since it was probably originally on in 1990, and it was as inscrutable. I mean, I love the Gene Shalit and Joel Siegel impressions I liked, and the singing, but it was too bizarre for me. Yeah,
very bizarre. I do find the image of Lovitz as Gene Shalit is just hilarious to me, though. Just it's worth that for that alone. Let's talk about, if there is much to talk about a trilogy of commercials with Jensen Syringe Company here. This is another bizarre thing about this episode, which is like this almost felt like something from like 1975 that like just was like a quick joke that didn't go anywhere beyond like the implication that a company like would be selling used syringes and like what their use would be. And like we get to see this one pop up through the rest of the episode where the first one, they're just sort of making fun of used syringes. Then they use them as darts. And then later on, they wash up on a beach, which that one is like very hard to find and cut for most broadcasts. But anything to say on this, Bill?
No, it's a rare commercial miss for this era, who are very well known for all the great stuff they did as far as commercial parodies. There is nothing here, and the fact they did it 3 times over the course of the night is just kind of shocking. So, for first dud of the night.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Yeah.
I almost felt like all of the people who created Eye on Chest Hair, those were their syringes in a way. But yeah, weird stuff. We'll then in a lot of commercials in this episode. A commercial for the Mob, which is it's basically like a friend suggested I joined this it could be an AA meeting like style commercial or like things that you should go out and do. And I think it's one of the cast members talking about how like somebody near them passed, and then Kevin Nealon ends up suggesting that they join the Mob, and it's a cute commercial in that sense. Eric, your thoughts on the Mob commercial?
Yeah, I kind of had similar thoughts to that. Kevin Nealon barely in this episode, which was kind of strange, but good to see him show up here and sort of play that sort of deadpan mob role, and and same with Nora as well.
Yeah, it's like basically she's looking to like help her financial issues. She ends up deciding to join the Mob. Dave, anything on this one that appealed to you?
Well, I guess Nora's selling of it, and oh wow, the Mob solves all your problems, and there's nothing but positive aspects about everything that they can offer you, and there's never any mention of them taking their share, or if you step one way the wrong way, it all disappears. So I guess that would be the one positive I noticed.
Yeah. So that will be followed by a performance of Monkey on My Back, which I alluded to, or I spoke about a little bit earlier from Aerosmith. In the original version of this episode, Steven Tyler, I believe, swears, and they cut that out of all the reruns. So that's like a pretty famous instance of an expletive getting out on live television on SNL. And then after the second performance, we'll have the Girl Watchers sketch, which is the 3rd edition of this and the last. We did talk about the season 14 one already, Bill and I, but this one is the Girl Watchers. Lovitz and Hanks are on an elderly cruise, and welcome aboard and bon voyage. So a lot of great tropes that you would typically get from these Girl Watchers. Max, was it fun for you to get to see them again?
Diminishing returns for this one. I mean, I like the other ones, but this one, I thought putting it on a boat or senior cruise, I think they were going for a cringe X factor maybe, but it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, this is one of those that I also think like Hanks could bring back. I mean, I guess he would need to do it with Lovitz, but I could see this playing no matter what. It wasn't so novel, and given that we just talked about one over here, they are very samey. But Eric, does it do anything for you, these Girl Watchers sketches?
No, these feel like something that you kind of had to be there for and be able to quote them in the schoolyard the next day. But yeah, for me, 35 years later, it's not doing a whole lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dave, what about you?
Well, when you watch 12 years of The Big Bang Theory, it kind of washes out because of the lack of success they have with the ladies. But if they can't even get any action on a seniors cruise, I guess that's a way to max it out. Like, hey, what's the next aspect we can take this to? Well, we can't get any during our high school reunion. Let's go and see if we can get seniors, and we can't even do that. But of course, still high-fiving each other and still not giving up on ourselves. But was that one, because that the last place to stop.
I think they end this sketch by Hank saying, "We are in hell," and I would say that I do think the idea of revisiting these characters like later in their lives to find out if they actually like got with somebody, I think would be a really funny trope. Like that would have been a great anniversary
Oh, yeah.
sketch to do.
I
Just to
think
bring
they
back
should
And you
meet the
bring the
Bloater
Wilson
brothers.
into
yeah, that would be great. Yeah, with Fallon and Parnell, that would have been really really funny to see them cross over with each other. All right, then
or
the
you could
last
bring
sketch we'll talk.
Wilson.
Oh, true. Yeah, definitely. The last sketch we'll talk about here is a Black History Moment sketch. So here we'll have Phil Hartman playing Andy Rooney. I do think the more memorable Andy Rooney impressions on SNL are Joe Piscopo's, who did a fantastic job with the Andy Rooney impression. But here we'll get Andy Rooney, who of course is, very famous for his rants at the end of 60 Minutes. And he will talk, it is Black History Month in February of 1990, and he'll talk about George Washington Carver, and talks about his love of Black people, and it will ultimately end up with him saying something to the effect of that it is a slur for gay people that he does not like. I won't say it on the podcast, but it is or I won't say it in general, but basically it's just something that I think in 1990 was somehow able to make it across his airwaves,
Which was surprising. This one was on Peacock, but the monologue wasn't. And so all of a sudden I was watching it, and it was kind of like, when you hear a slur like coming from an actor in a show you respect, you don't, even though it's like 25 years, you don't expect it. It kind of came like a punch to the gut, and it kind of like put all on the whole episode for me.
Yeah, and look, I'm not PC about comedy in general, but like if the punchline here is the slur, then I don't know that it holds up in any sense. Like I can understand why, like I can squint and see why that type of comedy worked back in the day, but I just think that like just on its face from like a strategic perspective, like I don't think this would work at all now and would probably get the show canceled. But yeah, Eric, anything you would like to say about it?
Well, I could also squint and argue with you, John, but I'd rather not. So no, I think I'm good. I prefer Piscopo's as well.
Yeah.
Did Norm Macdonald did Andy Rooney like in the last of his years, didn't he? Because I'm trying to remember that he did Andy Rooney as well, like shortly before he died.
He did it in the finale of season 19. He did an Andy Rooney. Yeah, and that was just more funny for like the Norm mannerisms than for me for anything else. But I love Joe Piscopo's Andy Rooney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So really interesting ending here, and it's again fun to go through this episode. I'll do my first final thoughts here as we'll go around the panel and talk through should this episode have ended up at 18. I think that the Wayne's World episode is the Wayne's World sketch in this episode is so far ahead in quality to everything else in this episode. It doesn't even come close. However, there are a bunch of other good things here. I think that this episode overall definitely deserves to be on the countdown. I could argue it's one of the better episodes that we talked about, but there's a lot of like back half material here that is just decent. So for me, overall, I don't think this is in the pantheon of the episodes that we have discussed so far. Bill Kenny, how do you feel about it overall?
Yeah, we've discussed 2 all-time Hanks episodes already. I think this doesn't come close to either one of those. Again, as you said, the Wayne's World puts it over the top. I think most of it is good. The bizarro-ness of something like Eye on Chest Hair is really great as well. I think the only issue is the Jensen Syringe Company, and they're so quick that it's hard to take a lot of points off for that. Got to give bonus points for Aerosmith and their first time being on the show. Great musical performances as well. So definitely top 50, probably top 25, but I don't think 18, or definitely not above the 2 that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I feel like a top 30 is maybe where I would go overall. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Yeah, I mean the Aerosmith Wayne's World does bring it up. I feel like the pacing in the back half is also kind of weird. Like you have all these really small bits at the end, like they didn't quite know how to fill in the rest of the time, which I think kind of makes it end with a little bit of a sputter. But I mean, overall, yeah, still really good.
Max, how do you feel about this one now that we've gone through it at 18?
I agree. Probably 30 of the 3 Tom Hanks episode. I think this is the weakest overall, but still, even a weak Tom Hanks episode is much better than a lot of the other ones. So I think a 30 would be good.
Yeah, that's fair. Dave, where do you land on this one in the end?
Well, it depends on your thoughts about the whole Trump.
Dave, sorry, I just got to interrupt you. You are breaking up a little bit. I really would love to get your thoughts on this. So it may be an internet thing. Just want to make sure that we can get your thoughts.
Sorry.
Do you want to just? Okay, we just maybe got you back. Do you want to try again?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll take a break here shortly. It depends on what you think of the whole Trump Ivana Marla Maples thing at the beginning. The monologue is very solid, top 50, but below the other Hanks episodes.
Yeah, that's totally fair. All right, so that does it for Tom Hanks and Aerosmith, our coverage of this episode at number 18. Let's move forward to number 17. We're going to jump forward in time many years as we will move to something a little bit more modern. But here at number 17 is certainly one of the more legendary episodes of the last 10 years. And let's talk about the great return to Saturday Night Live, this time as host of Larry David, with music from the 1975 from February of 2016, season 41, episode 12. Larry finally hosting the show, obviously was appearing throughout season 41 as Bernie Sanders, and he was just such a big deal and such a great part of this season. But when he hosted, it felt like the culmination of fans waiting for a long time for Larry's official return to Saturday Night Live, and here we have it this night, Bill. So how do you feel about Larry at number 17?
Such a huge fan of Larry David. Got to talk about him as I was hosting the SNL Hall of Fame this past year, and he was nominated. And this is such a great story from his starts, getting one sketch on in his year. We talked about it all last year with the Greatest Host Countdown when he was on there. This is a fantastic episode. Cold open again. We keep talking about it. Your mileage may vary with topicality and things like that. But after that, I mean, it is just banger after banger. All-time classic commercial parody that we'll get into as well. Great cameo appearance. So, yeah, the return of the eventual king in Larry David. Very happy to talk about this one tonight.
Yeah, I think this has one of the hottest streak of sketches in the history of the show.
Yes.
At one point in this episode, it is just like a fire banger after banger after banger. And you get that when you get one of these hosts in the building. We talked about that a little bit with Peyton, with him hosting. I mean, it is just something, John Hamm, Alec, like, I think it's just sometimes you get these people into the building and it's like, just whoa. And Eric, I mean, this for me, watching the episode that night, I was like, I was really down on SNL in this era. Season 41 was a huge comeback for me as far as the quality week to week, but this was one of the highest highs I was getting at the time for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I wasn't watching at the time, but I definitely got Burn Your Enthusiasm from this and watched that, a bunch of times completely independently of the rest of SNL. So when I learned I was watching this episode, that was the one that I kind of remembered. I had completely forgotten about several of the other sketches that were in this episode that are just brilliant as well.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's one that I think, it sort of falls within the shadow of post SNL 40, pre 2016 election, where I just don't think this show had the attention it deserved to see it starting to build in its quality. But we're really on like a great run here. And this episode falls into what is potentially or arguably one of the best episodes in recent memory. So Max, your thoughts on it? And Max, you're just muted. So let's just unmute you to just get your.
I hate to be that guy, but this was maybe I'm just not the biggest Larry David fan. It just I think the show has one of the best commercial parodies, one of the best political parodies, one of the most, in my opinion, overhyped sketches of the last 10 years. One of the worst reoccurring sketches. And so I feel this is not one of my favorites, but I'm interested in discussing it with you guys.
Yeah, that, like I said, whenever this happens, it's always the best part to be able to talk through and see if somebody doesn't like the episode as much as us. That's totally okay. And so I want to get Dave's perspective as well. So Dave, hopefully we have you back here to talk through this one. Would love to know your overall thoughts on Larry David in the 1975.
Can you have me, John?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I loved Feel the Burn. It's one of those you can go back to on YouTube, and I think it's got like 10 million hits. And it just shows you with how good Cecily is. She is fantastic in this entire episode, and we'll explain why as we go along in the sketch. Bernie is Bernie. Literally, they are related, like they're ninth cousins or something. So, and obviously, this is when Curb was as big as it's ever been, and it helped him ride it through to the end when they just ended it here about a year ago. So, high quality episode, definitely a top 50, top 25, top 17.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I would say that there's some really strong moments here. I wouldn't say that we have like the absolutely iconic moment where we have to start with. So Bill, do you agree with that? Do you think we should go through it chronologically?
Yeah, let's go straight through. Yep.
Okay, let's do that. So we'll start with the cold open here. This is a message from Ted Cruz. We get to see Taron Killam's Ted Cruz impression, which is, I guess, like one of the more tamer cold opens of the season as we're building towards this 2016 election. But he's really direct to camera, sort of, similar to what we would get with a lot of other eras of the show, talking about his potential success in upcoming primaries and caucuses. So, I mean, there's a lot of hype in season 41 about Trump and Hillary and Bernie, but we're going to focus on another candidate here, and I think the differentiation probably added to some freshness at the time. Eric, any memories from you of Taron Killam's Ted Cruz impression?
Yeah, I have a tough time watching this one. I just kind of feel icky when I'm watching anything related to Ted Cruz. And like, I don't think there's quite enough to his character like there is with some of the Trump impressions to really grab onto. It's just kind of like, and I don't know if it's a great impression either. It's just kind of a sweaty impression in my opinion. So don't
A
love
sweaty
this one.
impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Max, what do you think of Taron's Ted Cruz?
I agree, but I do have to admit he got me a laugh when he would say like I'm a little weasel and did a little weasel laugh, which that made me snicker. But yeah, it's kind of like I said before. Cold opens can either be a time capsule and they hold up, or a time capsule and a forgettable. This is a forgettable time capsule to me.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I think this is, it's also interesting in SNL context with Taron Killam's about to depart the show or about to be let go from the show. So they're still trying to find a place for him. At the beginning of this season, he was the one that was playing Trump. And that impression would be taken away from him and given to the announcer, Daryl Hammond. So he's sort of like a little bit lost in after having like a few very epic seasons. So I almost felt like this cold open, Dave, was them throwing Taron Killam a bone. Dave, we got you.
Yeah, you're right, but I thought he excelled with what they asked him to do, and there's not too many solo cold opens anymore, especially on top of a solo monologue. So that's a little bit interesting. I remember noticing that it seemed a little strange that except for 2 seconds with Kate, it's a solo cold open followed by a solo monologue into the first commercial break, and I assume that's very uncommon even today.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to Larry David's monologue, which to me is one of the funniest monologues I've ever seen on the show. Like going through this countdown, I would put this like, I don't know if this is blasphemous. I'd almost put this up there with the Rickles monologue as much as this, like as much as this made me laugh. Like it was so funny to me. Could be like a lot of like the Jewish humor that really just like appealed to me. But him coming out there and just like removing the facade of it being a big deal to host the show, saying how it is so stupid to be this hosting thing is so stupid. Talking about like people coming to his house and then leaving and like the joy of leaving. And the whole thing going from like a poor schmuck to a rich prick. Like I call my dad schmuck like lovingly. And like it's one of those things that just like we have like father-son bonding over just having a joy of that word together. So just personally it appealed to me. But truly the pinnacle is of course, like you expect every host in the history of the show to say, oh, we have a great show tonight. So-and-so is here. 1975 is here. So stick around and we'll be right back. And he's like, I can't say it's a good show. It's a so-so show. It's just like, it is an amazing monologue to me, Bill. I know you're a big Larry David fan, but this is so good.
So good. Really, the only other person to do this is Norm, right? When he hosts, it's like, no, it's not going to be a great show. But yeah, aren't you concerned that she's dating you for your money? Well, of course she is. Why else would she be dating me? Like, oh, I could just talk about this forever. He is one of the few people I have not seen live, and I would kill to see his stand up because he is just so damn funny. I don't think it's blasphemous to say you can put it up with Rickles, because I really think he's in his full persona here as Larry David, and it hits every mark.
It was so funny. And after I got Larry Davided at the 50th, which is, if you have not heard this story, Larry David walked by me at the 50th while I was on the red carpet. And I was like, Larry, can I have like 1 minute with you just to ask you a question? And he looked at me and he was like, and he just kept walking. So now that I've experienced that moment, I do appreciate that he is just fully himself forever. And this just makes this so much funnier for me. So would love to know from the entire panel their thoughts on this monologue. Eric, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, this was great. He really goes through, all the Larry David motions. There was a moment at the end where he, mentions the 1975 and he starts to ponder what that means. I was like, oh, is he going to bring up that's when the show started? And no, it's when he set his masturbation record. So yeah, great stuff from Larry. And John, I was thinking about your interaction with him, but I think it sort of comes up later on in a different sketch.
Yeah,
we'll touch on it when we get there. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking in my head, is the masturbation record the most or the least? Because with Larry, you never know, right? So never know which record that is that's breaking here. But Max, your thoughts on this monologue?
Yes. I don't know if he came up with the Master of Your Domain episode of Seinfeld. No, I mean, I like this monologue. Unfortunately, I was watching this. I was over at my parents' house. I was doing some work in their house. I was watching this. My mom said, worst monologue ever, but it wasn't for her. But I mean, yeah, no, I think this is pure Larry David. And I mean, I'm wondering, other than him and Mulaney, are they the only two writers that were just writers, not cast members, to come back and host? I know, like, Bob Odenkirk didn't, and I'm watching Better Call Saul, and I wished that he hosted during that time. But I mean, he mentioned auditioning, but he didn't mention writing, which is kind of interesting in the monologue. I noticed that this time.
Yeah, I would think that if Don Novello had hosted as himself and not as Father Guido Sarducci, then he probably gets a mention here. I know Mulaney would eventually go on to host, and like there's no like writers club in a way. Like Mulaney sort of just become like a 5-timer, and a lot of people think he's a cast member in the same way that people are like, oh, Larry David was on one season of Saturday Night Live. Like it's just the general things that people don't know. But I do wish that got mentioned here.
Don't forget Conan too.
Oh yeah,
of course. Yeah, Conan as well. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks. So yeah, that's just a limited club of writers, and we'll see if anybody else is going to fill that coming up. Dave, your thoughts on this monologue?
I really like the whole poor schmuck to old rich prick idea. I think when you look at Curb and like you said, his stand up, that's just Larry being Larry. He doesn't have to turn it's not like wrestling where you turn your character up to 11 because you have to entertain a crowd, but just be yourself. This is just him being him. He may not, who knows when he actually wrote the sketch. He might have just improv'd it from the moment he started, but very solid.
Yeah, so the next segment we're going to get post monologue is one that is so the epitome of living in the shadow of another sketch that nobody remembers generally, the FBI simulator Kevin Roberts sketch, because what was to come 8 months later was going to be David S. Pumpkins, which is also written by Mikey and Streeter. But this one is a very similar sketch where we're going to get an FBI simulation of, where to shoot the gun when you're in a situation like that. And we have this random character, Kevin Roberts, who's the coolest bitch in town. And he is just driving everybody mad. And the whole, why is this person here? I don't understand what's going on is such a classic Mikey Streeter thing. And I think at the time in February 2016, I remember just the talk online was everyone was obsessed with Kevin Roberts just for a few months and hoped that Larry would bring it back when he would host again in season 42. But I think, or 43, but I think that the David S. Pumpkins just blew this out of the water. So Eric, let me ask you, how did it feel to go back and see Kevin Roberts again? Do we have you, Eric? If not, we'll go to Max on this one.
Yeah, I didn't quite care for this episode. I don't know why.
You can come back to me and say.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know why David S. Pumpkins. I've watched maybe a dozen times since it's been on, and I laugh every time. But this one, it's just, first off, I like Cecily, but I didn't quite care for her character in this sketch. And it kind of turned me off, and I laughed at the other characters, the kind of robotic, but this sketch left me cold, and everyone laughed and loved it, and I felt, what's wrong with me? Why am I not laughing at this when other people are laughing at it? And it's kind of, it makes you think, why? And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of people being confounded by something moves past the line of it being too much of an inside joke. I think the Californians is probably an example of a sketch where the cast themselves are just laughing at the fact that this is something that they were able to get on television and it was a bit between them. But I think there is the in the sketch there is the factor that we as the audience are confounded and dumbfounded with Kevin Roberts, and I think that plays well for at least me, Max. Dave, would love to know your thoughts on the FBI simulator.
I love it. It's such an atypical Larry David style character, and everybody else does a great job with it. As I said, Cecily was awesome, and even Pete trying not to break in the background. There's a separate video on YouTube of the rehearsal of this sketch, and none of them can hold it together. They're just laughing constantly. The suit is terrific. Even the photo of him as the creator of the simulator with the big phone in his hand and that orange suit, top notch.
It's so good. Yeah. And that video is absolutely fantastic. Larry David cannot keep it together. And it is so funny to me. Eric, do we have you back?
Yeah, am I back?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, this is great. I almost prefer this to David S. Pumpkins, to be honest. I think there might be a little bit more here. Just a great example of interplay between Cecily and Keenan, which is kind of an underrated combo. And I think Leslie Jones's "I'm high on bath salts" is the absolute highlight of the sketch for me. Always catches me off guard. The one criticism I think I'd have is I kind of disagree with you, Dave. I don't know why Pete is here at all. He does not need to be in this sketch. To me, he provides nothing. But to each his own.
He's a featured player, and he's featured player, and he's next in line. And just to give something as a third rail to what Cecily and Keenan are doing back and forth with each other.
Yeah, and Pete will have a big moment later on in the episode that we will talk about eventually. Bill, for you, are you a Kevin Roberts fan?
I'm still waiting for the Kevin Roberts, David Pumpkins sitcom. They're living in an apartment in Soho, and they just, I think I love this sketch. I think this is such a great use of Larry. Can a bitch get a donut, John? Really? How is this? Oh, you might not know how Larry is going to do on the show. I feel that this keeps coming up over and over again. Obviously, he's very well known by this point because of Seinfeld and Curb, but Curb is more of a, Larry in an exaggerated form. So how is he going to do as character? And right after the monologue, getting this was just, okay, we're in good hands here with an all-time guy like Larry David.
Oh, yeah. So good. So good. And this is going to transition right over to what I think is one of the greatest pre-tapes in the history of Saturday Night Live. It is a perfect parody of Curb Your Enthusiasm and what was happening in politics at the time with Bernie Sanders. It is so brilliantly written, as this was a Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider sketch, the head writers at the time. I forget if they were the head writers at the time, but at least the duo was just so well regarded. And this was just one of those sketches that everyone was like, whoa. SNL still got it. And of course, this will start off as, the Larry character also has the Bernie in him, where he's playing Bernie Sanders and he's meeting his constituents, but he won't shake Leslie's hand after she's coughed in it and won't do the cough and shake. We go back to the headquarters. Cecily is absolutely fantastic in this as Susie, and Jay as Leon, who I believe they were trying to get. I did come across the original version of this sketch that was submitted to the table, and they were trying to get JB Smooth to be in this one, which they couldn't pull off in the end. But Jay Farrow was absolutely fantastic in this as well. And then we get another scene. And again, like, I know it's a pre-tape, but like, we don't really get as many scenes in other things in such a tight window the way that we did in this. That was so beautifully written, where 80 Bryant is going to go vote for Bernie, but gets into a car accident and her shoulder pops out and asks Bernie to pop it back in. He says, I'm not a popper. We don't pop here in Brooklyn. And eventually he will end up losing by 5 votes, and we get to see them waving all the people that he screwed over in the last few minutes. Truly legendary stuff here in Burn Your Enthusiasm. So Eric, I will go to you first on this one. What do you think of this sketch?
Yeah, I sort of opened with this, but like, I wasn't watching SNL at the time. This one made it through to me, and I must have watched it like 100 times. And it was to the point where I actually started watching SNL again. Like, every cast member I identified through the character that they played in this sketch. So, Cecily for a while to me was just the person who played Susie, and 80 was the person whose shoulder got dislocated. So yeah, absolutely brilliant pre-tape. I don't think I have too much to add here other than my own personal history with it, but great stuff.
Yeah, truly unbelievable stuff, Bill, to get this crossover between politics and the guys who's hosting show, who, again, in modern times, they don't typically do stuff like this. It is just so well done.
As you said, John, one of the best pre-tapes ever, one of the best parodies of a television show ever in the history of the show. I mean, they don't do that very much anymore because TV is so fragmented. They did this a lot more in the 80s and the 90s, but yeah, everyone hits their marks, as you said, with Cecily. I think Taryn as Funkhauser, so perfect. Bobby as Jeff. I mean, everybody does what they're supposed to do. It ends just as you think it would. And yeah, it's just the perfect pre-tape.
Yeah, so well done. Max, your thoughts on this one?
As probably I'm thinking the only person who's never watched the Curb Your Enthusiasm on the panel here. It works if you don't know the original source material as well. And I think two of the best casting of politicians, Tina Fey as Sarah Palin and Larry David as Bernie Sanders. I mean, just so spot on. And as kind of a little germaphobe myself, I mean, what was there? Sneeze, wipe, shake? There was no wipe, sneeze, shake. And it's just the hand sanitizer, the awkwardness. Nobody does awkward humor better than Larry David. And watching this makes me think maybe I'm going to start watching Curb Your Enthusiasm again for the first time.
It was totally be worth it. Highly recommend. And yeah, I mean, I could totally relate to the things that were going on here. And that's one of the best parts of Curb is like every episode you watch a Curb, you're like, oh yeah, that I do that. Or like people do like, there's just things about life that they call out that are so relatable. And this hits on all levels, Dave. So how was it for you seeing Burn Your Enthusiasm?
Well, I haven't seen Curb either, but I know enough about it, like Susie Essman and some of the other characters that the rest of the cast nailed it, and Larry did what he did, and you know that Bernie's watching because he's in the building, and I can imagine what he thought of it. So yeah, A+.
Yeah, we're going to transition to another really strong sketch. This is a Tim Robinson and Zach Galen sketch where they write the people on a steamship, and they're going to obviously take the women and children first. But Larry David's being very Larry in this and saying, that kid's not a child. Check for pubes, and just saying like the most crazy things. And then in comes Bernie Sanders, which will sort of overshadow the entire sketch as the real Bernie meets Larry on camera. And this is the moment that after you see Kate McKinnon meeting Hillary Clinton earlier in the season, you're like waiting for, okay, are they going to bring Bernie Sanders on this night that Larry David's hosting the show? And we get that here in the steamship sketch, Bill.
Yeah, and it's almost a shame. I'm happy that Bernie shows up here. It's the only time he's ever been on the show. But it is kind of a shame that it overshadows it, because I think this is a very good sketch on its own. The whole part about talking about a little person, and he calls them a word you don't really say anymore, and he's like, I could say it, it's olden times.
Very meta.
Yes. Keenan's great with the you suck, sir. This is Larry still being Larry, but in olden times. So I'm good with this in all aspects.
Yeah, and they do like a little politics talk here about like being sick of the 1%, and then you get Larry saying, I think we talked about this enough. So Eric, this is great stuff.
Yeah, I don't think this works with anyone else actually, but just because it's Larry, it absolutely works. Once Bernie shows up and they start getting into the politics, I think it actually dies a little bit for me. But then when they're sort of interacting as like individuals, and Bernie is saying, "Oh, I'm Bernie Sander Witzke or whatever," but I'm gonna drop the Witzke so I sound less Jewish, and Larry's like, "Will you though?" And then John, I think the moment when Bernie asks Larry, "Hey, do you want to share a cab on the way back?" and Larry says, I think we've talked enough. Like that's exactly how I imagined him addressing you when you asked, can I interview you? So
100%.
Yeah.
Dave, I see you nodding along. Did you want to comment on this one as well?
Eric took every word out of my mouth. Those were the highlights for me, and I love when the politician or the celebrity is in on the joke and is willing to be part of it, and know that the exposure will more than pay off the next day.
The next sketch we get is a commercial for Totino's Pizza Rolls, which is the second in a trilogy of sketches. The first one appeared a season earlier in the J.K. Simmons episode. The one the following year will be with Kristen Stewart. But this is the one where my hungry guys are all there for the Super Bowl, except they will not start repeating the go, 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 go touchdown. And eventually Vanessa Bayer's character, who I don't think has a name, which is a part of the storyline here, is staring at the screen, realizing that there's nothing there, and it turns into an X-Files parody, which is returning to Fox at the time. This is so much fun for me, and I absolutely love these sketches, this series of sketches year after year, and the fact that they did them every February. It was just a very cool thing for me, and I love that from Vanessa. Max, would love to go to you to get your thoughts on it.
I do believe this is one of my top 10, if not top 5 commercial parodies of all time. I love X-Files, Twilight Zone, so I love the spookiness, but I love how the game just slowly builds and builds and builds and builds until she's screaming, "What's wrong with my hungry guys?" And the black eyes is just one of the most off-putting and equally hilarious things SNL has ever done. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Fruiting, if you remember the Fruiting from like the 1980s. I think, and that was another one of my favorite commercial parodies. So I'd put that up there with that. Very, 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 very well done.
It was so good. It's great stuff. Dave, are you a Totino's guy?
I am. Classic Vanessa. Vanessa Bayer, definitely underrated among the all-time female cast members. I'd love to know what accent she's using. If she has one, I've never been there, but no, a great follow-up. And then even the third edition with Kristen Stewart tops that even more.
It's so good. And before the 1975 is going to come out to perform their song, we get Larry David and Bernie Sanders here to do the intro together, where Larry will say, Bernie, how are things going up in New Hampshire as the, the primaries are on their way? And we'll get a pretty good from Bernie Sanders, which is also like another fun moment here in this episode. Before the 1975 will perform The Sound, one of my favorite songs of all time. Just truly love that song, and it was adds to an already really good episode. For me, weekend update, we'll have 3 different sets of correspondence here. First, we'll have Kate McKinnon as Sturdy Barbie, so a good bit here from Kate. We will have an appearance. I'll skip ahead for a second. We'll have an appearance from Owen Wilson, who had not hosted the show yet at the time, and Ben Stiller, former cast member, would obviously come back to host. But they're going to be playing Derek Zoolander and Hansel, talking about all of the 2016 candidates and all of the fashion and stuff like that, promoting the new Zoolander. So a little bit of a fun bit here, but I think that the moment that most people do remember, if you are a big SNL fan, is John Rudnitsky, rookie featured player, having his breakout moment on Update. Obviously, he would have a short-lived career, and we just interviewed Rudnitsky a couple months ago, in case you haven't checked that one out yet on SNL Stories. But performing his Dirty Dancing routine, where he's imitating Swayze but drops the person and has this whole freak out in front of the desk. And it was just one of those things that, like, after this, it was a big night for Saturday Night Live, and everyone was talking about how he is this future star of this show potentially after watching this. So, Bill, your thoughts on Weekend Update overall?
Yeah, the Zoolander 2. I mean, who hasn't seen Zoolander 2? Said everyone. But Owen, for the first time on the show, it's nice to see him. We obviously will get him hosting in a few years, and we covered that here. But yeah, the Rudnitsky of it all. I know when we talked about Miss Aggie earlier on in season 50, and I had said at some point, like, I don't remember a lot of people being in front of the desk in the Che Jost era. And here's one of those rare occurrences. He had brought this with him, as far as I've heard, to the show. He'd been fighting to get it on. So here it is, halfway through the season, well, even more than halfway through the season. And we hadn't seen much of him up until this point. So yeah, I don't know how we were feeling. It did feel like that wow moment for him. Sadly, that's not how it turns out for him, but it's a great piece. It really is. Watching the miming of the killing and the police coming to the house and then putting his hands up and things like that. It's so well done. We don't get pieces like this very often, especially on Update.
Definitely. I mean, we won't do the full Rudnitsky story here because we've covered that here on the podcast, and I definitely invite you to check it out. But there were so many highs and lows throughout the season. This is pre-Dinklage and the famous instance of him missing the start of that sketch. But really, everyone felt very good about him here. So a very fascinating Weekend Update. Eric, anything you would like to say about it?
No, I mean, yeah, Rudnitsky's like perfect here. I don't know that there's a better moment from a one-time cast member than his moment here. Kind of an interesting thing to think about. I mean, maybe like Trost, Little Orphan Cassidy, or Aristotle's Angelo, but Say For Me. But yeah, absolutely brilliant from Rudnitsky here. Definitely reminds me of Chris Kattan in a way, because like his physical comedy is very similar, and he would do that stuff in front of the desk too. So yeah, brilliant stuff from Rudnitsky. And I actually liked the opening of Update, where they're sort of walking through the Republican debate, where they're sort of reflecting on the moment where Ben Carson had forgotten to walk in, or there was a mix up and he didn't walk in, and then it ends up where Trump ends up standing next to him, and all the other candidates are walking by. But I'd forgotten about that moment, and it was good to remember that.
Yeah, I was going to say that also, Eric. I read that down, which is like one of the funniest opens to Update, and like an all-time epic clip that, like, there's so many crazy moments that have happened since 2016 that clearly, like, no one was going to remember this, but it is one of the funniest things to see this group of balls just not know how to walk in, be introduced. It is fantastic. At the moment of Jeb Bush looking back at Trump and Carson, being like, "What is wrong with these guys?" is just truly hilarious that Jost goes through all of these moments to open up the show here. Max, any moments from Weekend Update that you enjoyed?
Did I hear Kenan Thompson singing in John Rudinski when he was doing the dance, or is that just me? It didn't sound like the song from the film. But I love physical comedy, so I really enjoyed that. Kate McKinnon, her Weekend Update just started all being kind of the same through the 16 to the 19. So this Dirty Barbie did nothing for me. I thought the Weekend Update was kind of just meh for this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Dave, what about you? Anything on Update you want to talk about?
Zoolander and Hansel were a huge factor. I think that probably got this particular episode a couple extra votes in the voting. Owen Wilson does a great job of Hansel, and of course Zoolander, he'll be doing that character when he's 90 probably. And you can really sense that Che's really into a solid groove now, a few months into his run as the co-host of Weekend Update. And there's just something weird about that Colin Jost pre-Scarlet haircut. I'm so glad she got him to change his hair. So he kind of looks like a too much of an academic, and then now I like his hair a lot better now, if that means anything. But no, a solid update from beginning to end.
Yeah, thanks, Scar, for that. All right, let's talk about our post-update run here. So I said before Pete Davidson was going to have a sketch here. This is like one of those at the time. I mean, Pete was not getting a lot on the show. He was, as we said, being like forced into some things, and I think they were trying to figure out how to make Pete work in sketches. He had done a lot of stand-up on Update, and you're still at a time where you're getting alternating Leslie Jones and Pete Davidson episode to episode on Update as correspondents. But really, as far as sketches are concerned, Pete's not having the most success there, but he does get something on here with some help. And it's sort of like a sketch where everyone's sitting around a circle and it's a songwriting class, and Russ, who's played by Larry David, can't finish the lyrics right. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like a lesser version of Hader's Anthony Peter Coleman, where I know that like goes off in a direction, but it was sort of like blocked similarly at a class of like people who don't really understand how to follow through with the instructions.
Yeah, and the people around Larry eventually come around just like that. That's a great comparison. Yeah, Pete feels very out of place here. This is a role, obviously we know now who he kind of turns into, but playing the straight man here is a very strange role for Pete. But I think he does fine. And Larry's just great. All the different references here as we get into the Frog House and who are the Frog's enemies now, and he pulls all these people into his ridiculous story when the obvious choice of rhyming these words is right there for him.
Yeah, I think it's Mikey Day who does work with Pete on this one. Mikey's obviously in the writing room at the time and helps him on that one. Then this is right before the Super Bowl between the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos, right before Peyton Manning will win for the second time and then retire. And we do get this Ebony and Ivory situation going on with Cam Newton and Peyton as they're singing together. Keenan and Taron Killam. So this is like a host list segment, which is pretty rare at the time, which will culminate in Cam dancing and then getting arrested. So sort of just like a difference in like, how each quarterback was being treated at the time, and very relevant to the Super Bowl. Eric, your thoughts on this one?
Well, this was the closest my Panthers ever came to winning that Super Bowl. So,
if only Cam jumped on that ball.
Right. So yeah, no hard feelings towards this sketch. I mean, this was great. I do love seeing sort of hostless sketches like this, especially with two vets like Keenan and Taron here at the end of the night. So yeah, good stuff.
Dave, when are we gonna get a Grey Cup parody on Saturday Night Live?
That's a good question. I've been to a few, and there's nothing really that jumps out that says that it has to be on there, John. But that's a terrific idea. I suggest you mention it to them. Yeah, this is solid. Basically, just Peyton Manning could do no wrong, and I don't know. Cam Newton was a black athlete.
Yeah, it's it's
Pretty much.
certainly.
Period. Pretty much.
Yeah. So our final sketch of the night is one of my favorite endings to evenings that we were getting at the time. It's Kate McKinnon's Sheila Sauvage, who is going to be opposite of Larry David here for a last call, classic last call with Keenan as the bartender, and some great lines from Kate McKinnon opposite of Larry as they grossly make out. This has always been a favorite of mine, just as like a junk foodie way to end the night. Like it's not going to be super high, it's not going to be super low, but I do enjoy these, and I think it's a solid way to close things off, especially just the prospect of, as soon as this is open up, to imagine that Larry David is going to be making out with one of the cast members. That to me is like there's a layer to this sketch as you're watching it, where you know what's going to happen in the sketch, but you're also knowing what's happening in the world of SNL at the time. And this was a very fun moment for me, Max. So how did you feel they ended the night here?
Let's just say we couldn't be further apart on this. There's some gross, stupid humor. Again, some what makes one laugh, one makes one cringe. These always make me cringe. I always feel like Kenan Thompson wanting to do those things to myself to not see this. It just no matter who it is, and I have SNL Vault on my default TV station, and it seems like almost every other day when I'm looking, it's that sketch, and I'm sorry, it rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, totally entitled to your opinion, but I don't know. All the rubbing in this sketch just gets me going, and so I do like it. Bill, whose side are you on here?
I'm more on your side, John. I think they did do this a little too much, and it is host dependent, but this is one of the better ones because Larry is so great. Got this terrible wig on, a night of terrible wigs for Larry David, starting with Kevin Robertson, going all the way through Ace Chuggins. And as they go on, Keenan's reactions get more and more cartoonish. So having that shade over his face is just one of those hilarious moments. Where did he get that from? I don't want to pull at the reality of all of this too much, but that's so great. It's a great piece for Kate. So I enjoy this.
Yeah, Eric, there's almost like a Juliana Margulies Bird Family aspect to these sketches where that there's going to be something gross that's going to happen. It's not as bad as like chewing food and spitting in each other's mouths, but like it's just like having these two actors having to make out, and like there's going to be something weird here that's going to happen. Something's going to get sprayed with something. I think it's just like that's the fun of live TV for me.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that there's a pretty low ceiling and a high floor here where they are consistent, and whether or not I enjoy them depends on my mood. Whenever I start the sketch, I'm never very excited to see them, but by the end of the sketch, it's like, okay, that was good. And when Keenan sort of wraps them in the crime scene tape this time, I think that was one of the best endings of these. So that's great. I would love to know what John Lovitz's Tales of Ribaldry character would think of these sketches, because they do, like, him and Keenan are sort of those reactionary cast members.
Yeah, he would have been oh my as he'd be covering his hands and looking through the peephole in the wall of the bar bathroom. But yeah, great stuff there. All right, let's do our final thoughts on the Larry David 1975 episode. Dave, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel about this ending up at 17 overall?
I think it's right in the perfect location. A lot of solid sketches, things that you can watch a million times on YouTube and recall immediately from when you were watching it. Totino's 2 is solid. Rudnitsky's best moment of his time on the show. And everything with Mr. Sanders certainly stood out, not only then, but still stands out now because of how much they've interacted with each other since then. FBI Simulators, my favorite, and Larry being himself. What more can you ask for?
Max, I know you said you weren't the biggest fan of the episode, but did we win you over a little bit?
Meh. To do a Larry David. It just what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch Curb My Enthusiasm and then watch this again, and maybe that might change my perception of this. But it wasn't my cup of tea. But that's the great thing about humor; it's subjective.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Eric, how about you? How are you feeling about this one now that we've gone through it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much at the perfect spot. There's like 5 absolute bangers in here, and there's a couple like, they just kind of flow by, but they're not too bad. So I think it's in a perfect spot, and I think we've had probably the right amount of time to really judge this one because it's been almost 10 years at this point since it aired. So I don't think it's really fallen victim to recency bias here.
Okay. Bill, your final thoughts on Larry David and the 1975 at 17.
This feels like the right spot for this. Not only a great episode, not only an incredible run from monologue to update, but a side note here, Curb had been off the air for about 5 years at this point. Nobody ever knew if it was going to come back. After this, he credits SNL as one of the reasons he decided to bring Curb back, which he does the next year. They do another 5 or 6 seasons, and we get the epic ending that we got last year. So a great episode, a great backstory, and 17 feels right.
Yeah, and I also have to say, like, I do think as we're getting towards the end of the list, and Bill and I are making our own list, and we're starting to figure out and maybe moving around some stuff to really figure out which ones are the greater episodes. I also think, in addition to this one having really important and fun segments back to back, it also is one that I think if you pluck out of the series, the show is worse for it. It is one of those episodes that is a moment in time in which it represents SNL returning to its glory. I think that at the end of, a few years earlier, like the end of 2012, 2013, you're losing a lot of really important cast members. The show has some rough seasons in 39. Part of 40 ends up being pretty rough. They have this epic celebration, and then it's the hangover of that. And then 41 with the election and everything starting to build towards it, it really starts to find its groove again. And Larry, I'm not going to say save Saturday Night Live. I won't go as far as that, but I do think that he is a part of what made the show have a major turnaround at this time that would go on and propel the show to get some of its highest ratings in years at the start of season 42. Season 43 would end up being pretty good as well. So I think that it's just important to credit that. And this, to me, having him host after years and years of people asking for it, ends up being a really epic night, in addition to Bernie Sanders showing up as well. So overall, I'm feeling really good about this episode ending up here at 17. Okay, guys, one more episode to talk about here tonight. This is one that when I was going through the results of the countdown, I was praying this one would make it on. It is one of my favorite episodes ever, and one that I think totally deserves to be here. So we're going to head back in time. Once again, we're going to go back to the original era of Saturday Night Live and talk about one of the most fun Christmas episodes in the history of the show. Let's go back to season 2, December of 1976, with host Candy Bergen and music from Frank Zappa, here at number 16 on the list. So let's get excited, Bill Kenny. It's Christmas time with Candice Bergen.
Oh, what a Christmas episode this is. And we'll get into the sketches, but there are 2 moments here that were on the best of Christmas forever into the 2000s. We have a moment that was played in all the breaking compilations that we've gotten. Still epic. It is fantastic. And there's other moments that are almost forgotten to time that are just really, really, really good. Candy, 3rd time in the building. Last time that we get her for 13 years or so. So this is a really epic moment for somebody who's on the fast track to becoming a 5-timer. Doesn't come back for the rest of the original era, but this may be the best Christmas episode of all time.
There's certainly a debate I think you can argue that this one has a case for being that. There are some amazing Christmas episodes. Obviously, we've seen a lot of them on the countdown so far. We may see more to come, but this has an argument to be there. SNL is in its original era is truly like figuring it out for a long time, and the show has really figured it out by the time that they get to this episode. It is just a fascinating look at where Saturday night was at the time, and I am so excited, Eric, to go back in time to revisit Candy's third time hosting the show. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, this is what I came here to talk about. When I was starting my watch through of the show, I made through season 1. I was halfway through season 2. Wasn't sure if I was gonna, be able to keep going. And one night I sat down and I watched this episode, and it was just like blew me away just from start to finish. I think it's like easily the most meta episode of the show up to that point, maybe ever, except for maybe like Grodin or something. But yeah, from all the sketches to the Frank Zappa of it all, just kind of a perfect episode for me.
Yeah, and it has it's the first time we're going back to season 2. This episode does fall after Chevy Chase leaves the show, but before Bill Murray joins the show. So you only have 6 cast members here. So a large focus on the players that are at the show at the time. And there is just a joyous vibe to this episode, at least on screen. So I am pumped to get into it. Max, what are your overall thoughts?
I'm very pumped. I mean, growing up, I watched original on SNL and classic on Nickelodeon. And I remember having the biggest crush on Gilda Radner when I was a kid. And this, I think, is one of her best episodes. And so I'm really, really happy. And this is the 8th Christmas episode you have done on this podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, honestly, that how many Christmas episodes are popular. But it makes sense. I always talk about every year when we're following the show live that it's the episode that most people look forward to from an SNL season. Dave, what was it like for you going back in time to revisit this one?
Well, I wasn't really sure of the dates until you sent it to me, John, and then I realized I was literally a day and a half old when this
Wow.
show aired,
Oh.
and my parents were a little too busy. So yeah, my parents were a little too busy to be able to remember this episode. They had to take care of. But to be honest, I'm not that high on it. Obviously, there's a lot of great moments that are in the Christmas compilations and the breaking compilations, as we discussed, and we will later. The cold open is too hard to identify with, and I guess I'm just a victim of the time because I've seen pretty much every episode since like '88. So to see how the technologies come along and how they shoot it and the quality of the cameras and stuff like that, it's so hard to identify with. For me, just how a 1970s studio comedy looks, if that makes any sense. But Candice Bergen does a great job, and obviously, I wasn't aware that this was pre-Bill Murray, so there were only 6 people in it. I'm kind of hit or miss on it.
Okay, and that's fair. So let's talk through. I do think that this is one of those episodes, though, that if you are watching the show chronologically, you do really feel like SNL's hitting a peak when you get to this episode. Maybe watching it like in reverse and jumping back in time to it doesn't play that way, but going through it, you're like, oh, damn, like this is really fun getting to this point in Saturday Night Live history. Let's talk through it. Let's talk through these moments. I do think this is a good chronological episode to talk through. So we'll go at the beginning and talk about the Patty Hearst cold open. Dave, you mentioned that this is a cold open that is pretty topical at the time. So there's a lot of Patty Hearst mentions, especially in season 1. So she is an actress and the granddaughter, I think, of like a very rich publishing entrepreneur who ended up getting kidnapped a few months before Saturday Night Live or Saturday Night premiered. So there's a lot of Patty Hearst like talk in season 1 and jokes about that. She's obviously back home with her family in this cold open at this time in December of 76, and the family's like sitting around talking, and so the dynamic, and then eventually it'll go into this meta moment of like they want to stop talking about the kidnapping, but they'll go through all the TV channels and they end up finding themselves on television. And then Gilda will explain that Saturday night always starts with Live from New York. It's Saturday nights. And a nice moment here for Gilda, who to me is starting to become the star of the show post Chevy Chase. And I think, as we mentioned, a huge episode for Gilda. Bill, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it is very topical. Having rewatched these episodes recently with my daughter, and I feel the need for big stories like this to kind of pause and explain what's going on. And as you said, they're talking about Patty Hearst. It was very, very scandalous. I mean, I don't remember it in real time, but it's very, to have been kidnapped and then become part of the kidnappers' crew, robbing banks with them and things like that. The trial had just ended. So that's all very much in the headlines as we're talking about this. I do love the fact that they're cutting to the moments on the TV and they're talking about SWAT and things like that. Law and Order did not start the ripped from the headlines trend. This was something that was happening even in the 70s, and then ending with Citizen Kane, which of course was about William Randolph Hearst and really pissed him off. So to kind of wrap it up with that, I mean, it is very topical. It is very heavy if you don't know what's happening, especially now 50 years later. But I think it works really well here, and Gilda just shines.
Yeah, Max, you were nodding along. How do you feel about this cold open? All right, Max, let me just unmute you so that we can get your thoughts on it. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like I say, cold opens can be a little bit of a time capsule, showing you what was going on in that time, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. And I mean, I thought this was very well acted. I love Lorraine Newman as kind of the attention-starved sister, and I think she's not given the credit from the original cast. I mean, she was a real strong utility player, and I thought this was a good focus for her.
Yeah, it was some good stuff here. The monologue is going to be a Casablanca parody that will result out of Candice Bergen not coming out for the monologue, but being stuck in her dressing room. It's sort of like almost like a Casablanca parody, but also a Louise Lasser parody from their summer show in 1976, where she won't come out, but she's just in love with Belushi. And it's a nice moment for Belushi, who to me looks, I think, the best he's ever looked in this episode, personally, but he is there opposite of Candy Bergen. Eric, do you like this monologue?
Yeah, I do like this monologue a lot, and this is a great showcase for Jane as well, where she's sort of sitting at the door and trying to talk Candy to come out, and she's just rolling her eyes and looking really exasperated that Candy would even care about John at all. So yeah, great Jane Curtin moment as well, and really continues the streak of the meta moments in this episode. So you got the sort of meta Live from New York in the first sketch, and then you get the more meta monologue here with all the backstage antics.
Yeah, I think Buck Henry in his season 2 monologue as well would also do the whole thing about him coming up to the floor and going backstage, and they're definitely like having some fun and playing around with the format. That's one of the best parts of the original era, is just how meta the show would get. So for me, truly, really loved this monologue. Bill, anything you want to say about it?
He does a great Humphrey Bogart, which Casablanca is one of those movies that's now almost 80 years ago, but maybe even longer, but it's one of those movies that was on TV all the time, especially in the 70s and the 80s. So people were still going back to this. It was considered, one of the top 5 movies of all time. So him doing this parody is really great. Yeah, that's about it. I always love seeing that part of backstage. It's not something we really get anymore at all.
Yeah, it is great. And then the first sketch post monologue is an appearance of Jimmy Carter, played by Dan Aykroyd. So we're still in Dan Aykroyd's mustache phase as he's there talking about Carter, who made all of these promises. Obviously, we're just getting into the point where he is now elected and will become the president. Earlier in this season, you get the first SNL debate sketches between Ford and Carter while Chevy was still a cast member. But already he's not keeping his promises, and promises that when he is eventually elected for his second term, he will fulfill those promises. Of course, we will get Reagan as president and not Carter at that point, but still a fun look back there. Dave, anything for you with Aykroyd's Jimmy Carter?
Well, as a fellow Canadian, it's nice to see. It was nice to see. I think that's an underrated presidential impression, Dan doing Jimmy Carter, and that was, like you said, John, in that 90 days between the election and inauguration day in the United States. I thought he did a great job with it, and obviously at the time between the election and December 11th, he realized that what he had seen just wasn't going to give him a chance to make the massive changes he felt he needed to, and they just took a comedic spin on it. But yeah, Dan's Carter, top notch.
Eric, how do you feel about Aykroyd's Jimmy Carter?
I think it gets better over time. Here, I feel like his accent sort of like sometimes went into this weird Australian mode almost. But you can kind of tell he's getting there, and I do ultimately really like the impression. I just don't think he's quite there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that I'm trying to remember the timeline of it all, but maybe it's at the end of season 2 in May of 77, that Buck Henry episode where they do like the fireside chat with his family. And I think that's the one where I'm like, oh yeah, he's really starting to nail that Jimmy Carter impression a lot more. It takes him a while to get there, but it is one that I think a lot of people don't talk about because it didn't have the famous lines that you would get from like Dana doing or Daryl doing their presidential impressions, but it is a pretty solid one from Aykroyd, who's probably best known for being a pitchman. And he does that in full spades here when we get the Santy wrap commercial sketch of, instead of just going to sit on Santa's lap, you can protect yourself. You won't get one tick from Jolly Saint Nick. And this is a very cute sketch here, Max. What were your thoughts on the Santy wrap?
I mean, cute. I noticed that I want to say like maybe just like 5 years ago they stopped showing it in the Christmas compilations, but this was on for several decades, and I thought it was cute. It was a good John Belushi role. I like Lori Newman. It wasn't one of my favorite Christmas commercial parodies. It wasn't one of my worst, but it was okay.
Bill, were you a fan of this one?
Yeah, as Max says, they played this forever, and props to the props department for. I mean, this is 1976. The way they were able to stain those Santy wraps into those Christmassy colors. Those are very thin papers, as anyone knows who's ever used a public restroom. So to make them look like almost Christmas wrap. Dan has some great lines here, like, December 26th, Noel here goes back to the Y, is one that always stuck out to me. And Belushi playing a drunk, I mean, does it well. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought like all jokes aside, he actually does do a very like gross, unhygienic Santa here. So yeah, it is a fun piece here, and a little bit of like a build up in this episode before we get to a performance by Frank Zappa that's known as one of like the most fascinating performances probably ever, where he's there performing I'm the Slime with Don Pardo participating, and then like reading out the lines as he's like pointing to the blackboard, and then the goo appearing on the TV. Like, it is just like one of those things that in 1976 you're watching the show and watching a musical performance, and you're just expecting like basic stuff, and this ends up just being a really epic moment. So Eric, when you got to watching Saturday Night Live and you got to see this performance, how did it play for you?
Yeah, I think this was the moment in the episode and probably in the entire show where I was bought in. Like, this completely threw me out of the water. Like, I did not know this was going to happen. And it was so great. And just having like the sort of components of the show being incorporated into the performance with the Don Pardo of it all, and with actually seeing the monitors that the audience is seeing, is just what lifts it up even more. And I think that Don Pardo actually has a bit in the actual song, like the recorded version. Is that right? I'm not sure if there's any Zappa heads here, but
yeah, I think I heard that as well. I don't know if that was something that materialized after this, if they like re-recorded it with Pardo, but obviously Don as the announcer was a pretty big part of the original era, and they would include his voice in a lot of sketches. But for him to be in a musical performance, besides introducing a musical performance, was very unusual. So Bill, this is like truly like one of the more epic performances ever.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Zappa fan as far as music. I really appreciate what he did for censorship in the late 80s, early 90s, as far as fighting back against what they were trying to do to music and what they were, all the things that they were blaming music on. But these performances, I would put this up there with David Bowie as far as original era, breaking the mold of what we saw. Lagoon, having the Samurai come out, Belushi come out, was just so great. Another thing that they would never really do. I mean, we get Ron later on in the 2000s with Will Ferrell, but there's not a lot of this in this era for sure. So I do appreciate this.
Yeah, so that's in that second performance that we get the samurai appearing in the middle of that performance, and then he'll perform Peaches and Regalia, whatever it is, at the end of the episode as well. So Frank Zappa, a big part of this, and he will eventually host the show in season 4 in an episode that is unexpectedly weird. Just I'm a Slime is one that if you've never seen that performance, go ahead and check it out. I'd probably also put I definitely would put like Radio as another one from the original era, the Elvis Costello famous changing of the performance from season 3, that as another one that's must watch. So there's a few there from this original era. This is certainly one of them. We talked about Santi Rap being in the Christmas compilations. Consumer Probe from this episode is like the surviving remnant from this one that I think to this day is still in the SNL Christmas specials. I'm happy about that, because like probably the first sketch I ever saw from the original era of the show, just because its longevity. But we get Erwin Mainway here opposite of Candice Bergen, and like, if you didn't know, if you're a younger person, you'd be like, oh, well, Candy, like probably original cast member. Like you just don't know these people when you're a younger person. But like this sketch, I've seen 100 times. I could recite the lines. I still find it funny. And that's how good it is. So Dave, how is it for you to see it again?
It's always a big part of the December Christmas compilation special, Consumer Probe, and it seems to never lose its luster despite its age. It's just the ultimate pitch man. I don't think there's been a better one in 50 years of the show. And Dan just tries to sell the most dangerous toys you can ever imagine to little kids, and then tell their parents why they're the ones that aren't dangerous actually are. So it's just, you couldn't do it any better.
Max, that moment. Well, first of all, there's a couple things. The bag of glass is something that I think I've been talking about like as a line forever. But that moment, like near the end of Aykroyd with the phone cord as he's like going across his neck and falls off the chair, and then the ball in his mouth, like those are just like images that are so representative for me of the original era of Saturday Night Live. Did you enjoy getting to see again the Christmas Probe sketch?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. What is it? Johnny's switchblade punk with that like huge knife. And the teddy bear chainsaw. I mean, it's still, you know what's coming, but it still shocks you and hits you every time you see it. No, I mean, this Owen Mainway, one of Aykroyd's best inventions of many characters.
Yeah, so good. He would obviously bring this back a lot, but this one, truly some fun stuff here. The next sketch we will get is a sketch that is my favorite segment from this episode. It is one that you have to go back and see. I think it is iconic. It is probably the first real instance of a breaking on Saturday Night Live, where we get a sketch called The Right to Extreme Stupidity League with Gilda Radner and Candice Bergen sitting across from each other as they have names in this sketch, one of them being Fern. And we see that Candice Bergen will mess up the name in this sketch, causing her to break. And then Gilda, being the genius that she was, just goes so hard and leans into it and adjusts some of her lines on the fly. And like, I can never describe it and do it justice, but for me, it is like everything I look for from this show. Like, just, you know, I know you want to design it and everything is so like built in a lab in the way that they design everything to get from Monday to Saturday. But the fact that you can like have some fun and you have these performers who are so smart and so good with comedy, let the show be live. It to me, Eric, is one of the best moments in the history of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's almost incredibly lucky that this is the sketch where it happened, like, because it's about extremely stupid people. But just that look that Gilda gives to the camera, like right before she goes into her monologue about extreme stupidity and references Candice Bergen's character, and it's just absolutely brilliant, and you know, some of the best stuff that Gilda does on the show. Yeah, just great stuff. And it does bring me to one of my points about this this episode, which is that the episode almost, I think, succeeds in spite of Candice Bergen. Like, there's some sort of in the previous sketch, in the Irvin Mainway, I do think that role is much better filled by Jane Curtin later on, but like, Candy does a good job there. But yeah, there are some moments in here where Candy is like sort of getting by on the charm of her awkwardness, and I think that really plays well in this sketch and some other sketches later on in the episode. But that doesn't take away from this sketch at all, though. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think there's an on-screen chemistry that Candy has with the rest of the cast that is, you know, sort of brings out lightheartedness in them in a way that I think, like, Jane is the greatest straight man, straight woman, whatever you want to call it, in these sketches, in any sketch. But I think that like Candy does bring out something in the rest of the cast. And I think there's been stories that have been told about how like Candy did this episode and was pretty disappointed with what Saturday Night Live had turned into. It missed like the innocence of those first few episodes where she's going to host, you know, twice in 8 episodes, and is going to be like, you know, such a big part of that first season that she's not going to come back for many years after this. But you don't see that on screen at all. Like, if you're watching the show, you would never know that, and you would just be like, why haven't we seen Candice Bergen again in a long time? But Bill, just one of the most charming moments ever with Gilda and Candy here.
Yes, and having seen this sketch 200, 300, 400 times, you know, it's hard when you watch these things over and over again. There is a diminishing return as a super fan watching something, and are you still going to laugh at it? I still laugh at this every single time. Every single time I get a chuckle, even though I know every beat, what's coming, what the line's going to be, where the break is. It still makes me laugh, and that just speaks to the testament of Gilda and Candice. Candice just giving up mid-sketch and just falling back in the chair and laughing her ass off, especially with Gilda's last night. I should know about, you know, people being stupid, and so should Ferd. That's just all-time classic moment here, and as you said, Gilda's becoming a star, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah, we can't all be brainy like Fern here, I think, is the line where you just see Candice just start to break in the background. And it's one of those things, Max, that if I could have had a camera into the control room to see Lorne Michaels' reaction to the sketch, I would pay so much to see that footage. Like, was he excited about this? Because as a fan, this is unbelievable.
Oh yeah. I mean, as I said before, I had the biggest crush on Gilda Radner. I don't think anyone didn't have a crush on Gilda Radner, and I mean, she's just, you could tell pure joy, humor, intelligence, all put here. And I just want to say, I think one of the saddest what ifs is, what if there wasn't the writer's strike of 1988? Because I believe that I read somewhere that Gilda Radner was scheduled to host, but because of the writer's strike, she wasn't able to, and lost her way too soon the next year. I mean, I remember I cried like a baby. First celebrity death that really hit me hard. And one of the cool things about Saturday Night Live is she's immortal. I mean, and being able to see her on a prime just hits you in the heart.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you saying that, Max. It's so true. And, you think about all of the women that would come after that would talk about how Gilda was an influence on them. Tina Fey specifically talking about, Gilda, and then Jan, and like how all those people just really like led up to her being there. And I still think that Gilda's, even though it didn't happen right away, Gilda's influence over, women eventually having a stronger voice at the show would be felt for years to come as more footage of Gilda became more publicly available. And this is one of those moments, Dave. So I'd love to give you also an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, it is just classic Gilda. I mean, the fact that they hire these cast members who are mainly improvisers just tells you how good she was, and how she didn't sell any idea that she may have been distracted or not being able to handle it. She probably could have gone on for another 5 minutes if they really needed her to. But yeah, it was hard to remember the initial layout of what the sketch was supposed to be about, because that's such an iconic moment. And like everyone has been saying, just Candace just said, okay, I'm going to sit back and listen, because there's nothing more I can do than just smile and laugh.
Yeah. So, when we had Will Ferrell's season 34 episode here on the Countdown, and we were talking about Goodnight Saigon, like that to me, like so epic, my favorite way to end a season, like one of my favorite moments ever in the history of the show. This is also one of my favorite moments in the history of the show. It's so different in its own way, but it's just like, I love that Saturday Night Live can give you these like big, incredibly epic moments that give you chills like all down your arm. And also these like moments where you just have like two people on a couch and they're just having so much fun and you feel like they're your friends. And I think that is what this moment was to the show. And I'm sure it was that watching live in 1976 as people all around the country were watching this. But even going back and seeing it, like you feel like Candy and Gilda are your friends when you watch this. And it is maybe one of the most joyous moments ever on Saturday Night Live. So we will then move into Weekend Update with Jane Curtin, who is hosting at the time post Chevy Chase. We will go to a sketch that is, or sort of like a correspondent piece from Dan Aykroyd, who's playing Ray Basalt, who's giving the holiday radioactive fallout report. At the time, we were still doing the like mid-weekend update commercials, where we had a Polaroid commercial here that I assume was like part real ad, part fake ad for the FX70 cheese slicer. Of course, if you've ever watched Saturday Night Movie, you know that there's some truth to the fact that SNL really was doing real Polaroid advertisements, especially in season 1. So like a fun bit there with Belushi and Candy. And then it'll go back into the second half of Weekend Update, where we'll get Emily Latella, Gilda Radner's character, coming on here, who had been along with Cheddar Chase for many, many times, but now is back with Jane Curtin. And we'll have the moments that will be repeated a million times, but this first time, love the ending of bitch as she ends her correspondent piece here. So a great night for Gilda already, but a really fun Weekend Update. Bill, anything you would like to say about it?
Yeah, first time we get her with Jane, so that's really interesting. She talks about, why haven't you had me on, and all of that, and yeah, the bitch is the big part of it. Dan's character is fine. It's kind of a prelude to the news team that we get in season 3, with having all these different characters come in besides the two anchors. So yeah, it's fine. The cheese slicer, I almost said cheddar cheese. The cheese slicer camera is definitely a great nod to the fact that they were doing these commercials with Candy in the first season, the real commercials with the Polaroid.
Yeah. And with Emily Latella, Eric, I mean, the only more epic way to have ended that piece, it was if instead of saying bitch, she said, "Can a bitch get a donut?"
Yeah, that would have been more epic, and I would have preferred her to switch it up some of the other times that she did it, but alas, she did not. Yeah, Emily Latella. I mean, this is definitely one of the better ones, just because it's the first time she does it. Not too much else to add there. Although I do love her mix up more this time, where she's mixing up unisex with UNICEF, because it kind of has an extra layer of her thinking that unisex are like an actual like creed of people who have their own sort of services that they can go to. So I do like that extra layer. I also really like the Jane Curtin through line here, where it's her husband is sort of trying to get her to come home at the beginning of Weekend Update, and then he's hiding under the desk the whole time, and she keeps slapping his hand away and all that stuff. So great runner with Jane there. And then yeah, the Aykroyd bit, I thought that was really impressive, because he's doing sort of um, the Fallout report, and like he's talking so fast, saying so many words, and obviously that's something that Aykroyd excels at. But half of the time his back is to the camera, like there's no way he's reading from cue cards. He's drawing all this stuff on a map. It's like he's doing like three things at once, and it's just like incredible to watch. And you almost understand why they gave him update later on, because he was able to pull this kind of thing off. And it didn't quite translate to just straight reading the news, but this in itself is great.
Yeah. Yeah, really solid stuff in the middle of this episode. After the second Zappa performance, we're going to go to a sketch called The Killer Trees. So a little bit of a play on Killer Bees. Obviously the Bees is a big, recurring sketch from the first season of the show, and the first like sort of recurring sketch that they had there. And this is like a multi-scene sketch, which is something you would see more in like season 4 or season 5 of the show. But in the moment in season 2, like it feels pretty epic that they were doing this, where you're going to have the team of Aykroyd and Belushi trying to solve the tree murders after they would be singing "O Tannenbaum," they would go murder somebody. And a fun fact, they got Chevy Chase, I believe, to record the voiceover of that. So there we do get a small Chevy appearance, who was just like finding a way into these season 2 episodes week after week after he would leave. But yeah, this is a really good appearances from Frank Zappa in the episode. And this is like one of those that I think, there's some big moments from this episode, and this is one that I think should be right alongside there. I really do enjoy this sketch a lot. Dave, I'd love to go to you first on it. How do you feel about Killer Trees?
I didn't know about this one until I had seen it, and you'd almost wonder why it's not in those Christmas compilations, because it's so well, probably because it's too long.
Yeah, that's probably
it's extremely solid, and like I mean, all the talk has always been about 8H is how small it is and how they can fit everything in. And I know, John, you've been there in person, but I don't know how they shot this so well. Maybe they moved the audience that were sitting on the floor for the one sketch, but it was shot so well, like cinematography, I guess is the term. So I wasn't too excited about it when it first started, but I let it play out, and it was really, really well done and had a lot of laughs. And obviously, Candace and Gilda can scream like they're actually being killed by a tree. But yeah, great credit to the crew, the direction, the actors, and just everybody who worked on the floor when they shot it.
Yeah, it is really, really good. Max, do you have good memories of the Killer Trees?
Actually, I don't remember seeing it when I was a kid. The first time I saw it was this last Christmas. I listened to your podcast on your favorite Christmas sketches, and I think this was your deep cut, Bill. And I have to say, Garrett Morris is an awesome singer. And opening with him singing and then being killed, and the 1970s cop like Christmas score runner. I mean, this is just, it's kind of like one of those like deep cuts, but I'm really glad that I watched this. I think I'm going to watch it every Christmas now. I loved it. And Gilda Radner, what was the song? She was like singing like I am so poor, like, and I just I love this. I mean, this
I think it was
this
Look
I think is one of my favorite one of my favorite sketches of the night, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is so great. Bill, I didn't realize I had forgotten that this was a sleeper sketch for you. So tell me about it.
Yeah, the Superfan episode where we talked about greatest holiday moments. It's just so under the radar, I think, because of the way they put compilations together, how hard it was to find things before DVDs came out if they weren't put on a Comedy Central cut. This is great. And as I kind of referenced earlier, we get Zappa here, musical guest appearing in a sketch, very rare, brief moment, but he's in the police lineup with the trees. And Belushi and Aykroyd here. I mean, they're kind of channeling their Jaws characters, the cops, where and they put Candy in that situation, and she dies, of course. And they said, "Well, we said we'd be outside, but we didn't say we'd actually do anything." It's just a great way to end that sketch. It is a little long, so that probably is why we didn't get to see it more often in the 80s and the 90s. But I love this sketch so much.
Yeah, this was one I think that when we had the Paul Rudd Omicron episode and we had that Hank sketch that was really long, I remember saying that night, I was like, oh, this would have been a good spot for Killer Trees. That felt right. Eric, are you also a fan of the sketch?
Yeah, I love this sketch. Not too much else to add here from what everyone else has said, but I do think this is Candice Bergen's best acting of the night. I think she really gets to like play in with her dramatic chops here, where she's sobbing about the death of Gilda's character. So that's great to see. And then at the end you get to see the stagehand come out from behind the tree. Like, what should we do with the stagehand? So not too much else to add here, but great sketch.
Yeah, and the stagehand is Neil Levy, actually, who I did get to talk to a little bit about this sketch because I wanted to know who was the O Tannenbaum singer, and he's the one that told me that it was Chevy. So yeah, that was very, very cool to see. Following that, we have the Gary Weiss pre-tape about Diana Nyad. I won't really dive into this one because I don't want to bore you, but
you won't dive in.
Yeah, I won't dive in. The Gary Weiss pre-tapes are not my cup of tea. I'm not a big as much as I respect Gary Weiss. Didn't work for me as much as like the Schiller stuff that we would end up getting later on. Then we have a Adopt Belushi for Christmas sketch, which is like a really fun thing to think about in retrospect, as they were going to do a contest about like, okay, well, Belushi has nowhere to go for Christmas. The rest of the cast is going home. So who wants to adopt Belushi? It's very cute. And I think about it, it's fun in retrospect because they would be doing the Anyone Can Host contest 1 year later. And because of that, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is like one of the instincts of, all right, people are like sending stuff in and there's a contest and there's the interaction with the audience and like you do get the home movies. So I do think like that's cute in itself. And this would be followed by the Let's Kill Gary Gilmore sketch, which is a Michael O'Donoghue piece about Gary Gilmore, who I believe was getting death by firing squad at the time. So Michael O'Donoghue teamed up with Marilyn Suzanne Miller to sing, to get the cast to sing Gary Gilmore for Christmas, Let's Kill Him. And this is the moment where if you're watching the episode, like you don't really necessarily realize it before, but when you see only 6 cast members there, it like hits you hard in that image of like, this is the weirdest thing, Bill, just to see only 6 people in this cast.
Yeah, and we get our second really super deep topical moment here. It was a huge court case trying to get Gary Gilmore. Gary Gilmore wanted to be killed as opposed to staying on death row for the rest of his life. And in Utah, there was 2 choices, and one of them was firing squad. Eventually, they do kill him about a month after this, but it's so dark and it's so crazy. Every time I see those 6 cast members standing out there, I feel bad. I want to wipe the snow out of their eyes because they clearly can't see. Somebody from the props department is just going too hard with that snow. And like Danny's got it in his eyes and Garrett can't get it out of his face. And but it's very funny, even if you don't know what's going on here as we're talking about murdering someone.
Yeah, of course. When you see this, it does make you think back to the Winter Wonderland performance the cast would do in the first season, and thinking like maybe that they had thought about that. That is one obviously would end up in specials for many years, but maybe they're thinking, okay, like let's do some sort of musical performance. And O'Donoghue's a sicko, so it just makes sense to do something here. Zappa will then perform, and then you're like, where'd the cast go? Well, they all went to the ice skating rink, and Candice Bergen has this very awkward goodnights. But besides the awkwardness of that, this is like to me another iconic moment here. The fact that we're going to get the cast and the writers, like they're going to be there on the ice skating rink. It's the first instance in the history of the show of having some ice skating at the end of a Christmas episode. And for me, like that does add to the epicness of this episode. So I really, really love this one overall, one of my favorites of all time. And I'd love to just go around the panel, talk about your overall thoughts on it, and if you want to say something about how the episode all came together at the end. So Dave, I will start with you.
Well, I felt bad for Candice Bergen because she gets handed the mic at the skating rink, and I looked on the feed and there was like 6.5 minutes left, and she's like, come help me, we need to fill this time. And again, just a tremendous improviser that she is, obviously. I like the Adopt Belushi sketch. The execution song, again, you had to be not an infant to, I guess, understand what was going on at the time. They really do break the mold so much. I mean, that's what the first 2, 3, 4 years were all about, was because Saturdays were Johnny Carson reruns, and they wanted to do anything that was the exact opposite of a Johnny Carson rerun, and they accomplished it. And Candice Bergen could really skate backwards very well. So,
Yeah. Unlike O'Donoghue.
it was honestly, there must be some logistics as to why they did it every year. Now they don't anymore. I wish they could do it for Christmas episodes. There must be some very good reasons why, but as I said, not the groundbreaking episode that I mentioned when we went into it, but solid performances.
Max, you were very excited to talk about this episode. So how do you feel like it all came together at the end?
Oh, I mean, I always love when they do dancing at the ice rink at Rockefeller Plaza, and they don't do it as often. But I mean, this is, I think, the one that kind of set the mold for Christmas episodes in the future. And there is something about the season of Christmas, the holidays, that I think SNL is on its top game, and I believe this is a breakout episode, and SNL on the top of its game.
Yeah. Eric, for me, this is one of the tentpole original era episodes. Just really has some incredible moments. And like I said, you do see the show like coming into itself fully formed and understanding what it can be. How do you feel about it overall now at 16?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, one of the two probably that I think are the best from the original era. And this is really where I think the show, like, I think before this, the show was sort of just trying to pretend to be a parody of like all forms of television, what you might see on TV. And this is really an episode where you can see the show like referencing itself a lot more and being a show about itself almost. And I mean, I think they drift away from that a bit later on, but that's kind of what it was for a while after this. And yeah, just absolutely brilliant all around. I think they hold the Christmas theme together really well, but they're able to do it in like not a like schmaltzy way that kind of comes across later on, because they still have a lot of the dark edge to it with, you know, the closing song sketch and the killer trees and, you know, Johnny Switchblade and all that. So yeah, I think it comes together great. So yeah, still one of my favorite episodes of all time, and will always be one of my favorite episodes of all time.
Yeah, same here. And Bill, I think for me, it's just the variety of what we get in the episode. You get like you get a really long epic sketch with the killer trees, an incredible musical performance with something that surprised you, some breaking, some great recurring characters. Like the show really has everything for me, and definitely deserves to be one of the greatest of all time. How do you feel about it now overall at 16?
Absolutely does. After this SNL for a while, they will do Christmas sketches, they will do holiday moments, but we really don't see till the second golden era something that goes full bore into the holiday season like this one does. From pretty much from start to finish. The good nights. I mean, what can't you love about this? From the awkwardness, her ad libbing. This is such an unfair thing. Poor Candy.
That's
And
why she never
ending.
came back.
Right, that's it. To ending, like they had so much time to fill. They play "O Tannenbaum" from Killer Trees again as the credits roll, and they say "Merry Christmas" at the very end there. Yes, it is an all-time classic episode. It's one of the episodes that made me a fan of this era, having not watched this part live. And Candy's great. I mean, just I wish we got more of her. I really do. I wish we were talking about a season 3 and a season 4 Candice Bergen episode as well. Alas, this is her last great episode, and it's a hell of a way to go out.
So for our final segment of the night, Bill and I will talk about where we ranked these 3 episodes among the rest of our rankings. So I will put them up on screen, and then Bill and I will discuss them. So I will go first this time. I think, Bill, you went first last time. We have them on the screen. I'm not going to go through everything, but I'll go through my top 15, and then Bill, maybe you'll do the same here to go through the upper echelon. So I actually do have Tom Hanks from season 15 at my number 15 right now. It's ahead of the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, the Groden, the George Carlin, that sort of area of things. I think it is a really good episode that does have this like all-time epic moment in the Wayne's World sketch, but there's just some things here that like really don't live up to the epicness of a lot of the episodes that come ahead of it. Any Hanks episode, as you said, Bill, is a great one, but for me, it's probably middle of the pack among the episodes that we talked about now. So I have it 15 out of the 35 we've talked about here. Ahead of it, I got Justin Timberlake from season 36, Fallon's Christmas episode from 37, Walken from season 18, Sigourney Weaver, the premiere from season 12. And then my top 10 right now, I got Hanks from 16, which I think is a better one than 15. Kristen Wiig's episode we talked about last week from 49, still a great episode. Farrell's finale from season 34. Then I got Larry David's episode at number 7 right now. I just think it has one of the strongest run of sketches that we've seen in any episode so far. So definitely deserving of its spot. Candice Bergen right now, I do have ahead of it at number 6. Probably doesn't have like the all-time epic moment, but maybe I have to rethink that with the right to extreme stupidity. But it was just so good. One of my favorites. So I do have that at the season 2 one. I have it right behind Don Rickles, who another one of my favorite episodes, but different in its own way. I think I could flip flop those, but either way, I have Candice Bergen right now at 6, Rickles at 5, Peyton's episode, my favorite of all time, at number 4, followed by the 3 episodes on this list that I still think are like close to perfect Saturday Night Live episodes: the Alec Baldwin from season 15, John Hamm from season 34, and Tom Hanks from season 14. That's my like pantheon right now. But I got Candice Bergen from season 2 at number 6, Larry David for season 41 at number 7, and Hanks from season 15 at 15. Bill, where did you put yours?
Yeah, so I slid Tom Hanks in here at number 11, right ahead of Sigourney at number 12, George Carlin at 13, Groden at 14, and then Walken season 18 at number 15. My top 10, I've got Kristen here at number 10, Rickles at 9, Peyton at number 8, and I put Candice here. Everything we've said about this, it's just such a great OG episode. I've got Hank season 16 at 6, and right after that, I put Larry David. Just as good as it can get, but I still think it's just a little bit below my top 4, which hasn't changed, which is John Hamm, Will Ferrell, Baldwin season 14, and Baldwin season 15, Hanks season 14.
Yeah, I think some of the bigger differences in the upper echelons of our list right now is you have Will Ferrell's finale, which I do love, significantly higher than I do. I do have Rickles pretty much higher than you do. So those are a couple ones that we're pretty different on within our top 10 or 15 episodes. Eric, I'd love to know from you how you feel about where we place these ones tonight and which list you're enjoying more.
Yeah, at this point, they do feel very close, but I'll probably go with Bill at this point. I do really love that Will Ferrell episode. That's pretty much my main justification for this one.
Okay, Dave, which list do you think is better right now?
Well, you know what? It's your top 35 is pretty much most, if not all, of the ones that we've seen from 16 to 50 so far. There's a couple that I find absolutely hilarious that are not on here in your top 35, and
Well,
I'll
just
ask about.
Dave, just want to be clear that we are ranking the episodes that have been revealed on the countdown, so we're not including any episodes
Oh, okay.
that,
All
yeah,
right. Well
just
then.
among the episodes that are ranked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I saw 16 to 50, but 1 to 35, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. No, I like the lists, and you two are very common with the rest of the voters.
Okay. All right, Max, which one do you feel is better between mine and Bill's list right now? Or Max, you're muted, so let's just make sure we can hear you.
It is hard to say. I agree with some points on both of your lists. So I'm going to say I haven't quite made up my mind yet on that. I apologize for that. But I agree with, I hate to say this, but I agree with both of this. I do kind of like that you both have Lindsay Lohan as dead last, because I really, one sketch does not a best episode make. And I'm really glad that you're simpatico on that.
All right. Well, it will be interesting. We got 15 more episodes to reveal. We'll see how these lists begin to depart. And like I said, these lists are fluid. So Bill and I have the ability to edit them, and they're not locked in full until the final episode of this countdown. So we will see what ends up resulting in that as we go through the next 5 weeks of reveals. Also, we every week go over Bill's predictions. And the only big addition that we have to talk about this week, Bill, is that we have a new season to add to the list in season 2, which now brings you up to 25 out of 31 seasons. So, Bill, how are you feeling? Do you think you're going to match the season total in the end?
I think it brings me up to 26, John. I don't know. I have to check the numbers on that. I think we.
All right, my bad. I'm going to double check that. Go ahead.
Much like I said last week, I'm starting to sweat that one. I can't imagine that anything that is in the top 15 season-wise we haven't talked about yet. But Candy got in here with season 2. Maybe we'll get a season 5 or even a season 20. No, we're not going to get that. But you never know.
Yes, you are right. I just did the audit, and 26 seasons. It's hard to keep track here, but 26 out of 31 seasons. So you got 5 more seasons to get. No new cast members tonight. Larry David was not a cast member. No new finales or premieres. 5 timers. We added another one, obviously, with Tom Hanks joining the list here. But you already cracked that. So we should have asked you about Christmas episodes, because they have been all over this countdown. But truly, definitely an interesting storyline as we talk through the rest of these episodes. But guys, this was just so much fun with all of you to go through 3 very different episodes from 3 very different eras, but just an epic night of SNL discussion. So, Eric, thank you for joining us here tonight. Anything you would like to say to the listeners?
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I am really excited to see how this series finishes up, and excited to watch the remaining episodes.
Yes, excited for that as well. And thanks, Jonathan and Chad. Yes, Candy Bergen, also a 5-timer we should add to the list. So, Bill, you just hitting home run after home run with those 5-timers.
Yes.
But yeah, good stuff here. Max, you were awesome tonight. Hope you enjoyed being with us for longer. So appreciate you.
I did. I did. I mean, this is, I was kind of nervous, but I'm glad and look forward to discuss one of the episodes next season. And hopefully, with Nobody 2 being the hit of the summer, maybe we might finally get Bob Odenkirk to host.
Yes. So when I attended the show in season 49, I was in Heidi Gardner's dressing room during that show. And Bob Odenkirk's wife, Naomi, represents Heidi. So Bob Odenkirk was in the dressing room with me, and we were talking a little bit. And I said to Bob, would you ever want to host Saturday Night Live? And he's like, they never asked me. So I think he would do it. Hopefully we do get that. That would be a really fun story. Definitely. So Dave, thank you as well for joining us here tonight. Always appreciate getting to talk to you. Anything you would like to say to the listeners?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Eric and Max. It was great to be with you. Bill, you're a king. I love you, man. And I'm looking forward to season 51 and Mike Murray's stats being as accurate as they've always been. And I hope I can join you guys for a Saturday, a Monday, or a Wednesday in season 51.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Dave. So really appreciate you all here. Bill, thanks so much for joining us here tonight as well. Anything you would like to say?
Yeah, John, the anticipation as we get to these last few episodes is going to be great. The panel was great again tonight. These guys did a tremendous job. John, you got to give me credit for the writers, man. I need Larry David and supposedly Mulaney at some point. I don't know the rest of the list, but I need to at least get that number, John. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to talk to you again. Bill, of course, if you're enjoying everything that we got here over at the SNN, please subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Let's get those subscription numbers up as we head towards season 51, slowly but surely. Hopefully we'll get some more news on that we'll talk about here on the podcast very soon, but excited for SNL returning in less than 2 months' time. If you've been enjoying our Everything You Need to Know About SNL series, we have season 23 out now, season 24 out very soon, so stay tuned for some news on that. But of course, we'll be back here next Monday night to reveal 3 more episodes, 15, 14, and 13, as we head towards the top 10 SNL episodes of all time. So very, very exciting to be very close to that. You can also follow us on social media at the SNL Network on all social platforms to never miss anything we are posting over there. We're going to be putting up some graphics soon for predictions for season 51, and we want to get all of your predictions in before we get the official news on the show. So looking forward to discussing all of that with our great panelists here week after week. I want to thank Eric and Max and Dave for joining us and supporting us on Patreon. If you want to watch any of the episodes that we talked about here tonight, they will be available all week long, patreon.com/the SNL Network. And thanks to the live chat and Bill Kenny for joining us here on the show tonight. And of course, our presenting partner, latenighter.com. On behalf of everyone here at the SNN, my name is John Schneider, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.